Alrighty, well, welcome to this week's Talk About Ask Us Anything. As usual, a busy week. Does anyone want to start off with any news or anything? I guess we could start with the Berkshire Hathaway non-purchase of Tesla shares that everyone was hoping might happen. Do you know anything about that one, Pete?
Yeah, the non-news, you mean? Yeah, no, not much. It was Chevron and Verizon were the two big holdings that Berkshire Hathaway ended up buying. And actually, we're talking before, you mentioned another company, Harold.
Yeah, Marsh and something.
The insurance.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Which is interesting because you could always argue that buying an oil company might be a bit risky for long-term profitability, but perhaps buying an insurance company, depending on whether they're into car insurance or not, particularly with Tesla wanting to bring out its own offering, is even more interesting. But yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I guess the thing that was actually strange, but perhaps special in the case of Berkshire Hathaway, is they actually do get a dispensation when they buy more than 5% of a company. They can actually, if they're still actively buying, they can choose to apply to have an exemption for, I think it's a quarter, before they have to actually announce that they've exceeded a 5% holding or a substantial holding. So I guess a lot of Tesla watchers were hoping. Yep.
Apparently the last time they don't use that privilege that often. Last time they used it was in 2015, so over 5 years ago. But yeah, interesting. I was reading today that Berkshire Hathaway have actually made $6 billion profit on their GM and BYD positions. So I don't know if you remember, but Warren Buffett bought into BYD, would have been years ago now,
yes,
4 or 5 years ago at least.
Yep.
So yeah, both of those stocks have gone up recently. So
yeah, well,
and he shaved off a little bit of Apple, but that's a massive position for them.
Yes, and a massive company too. That's
Yeah.
done quite well for them in recent times, at least, I guess. But perhaps Berkshire Hathaway are always a bit slow to come to the party. I guess their main remit is to have ownership of, well, what they define as well-established, stable earnings companies, and perhaps they're happy to let the big growth spurts be enjoyed by others in the market, and they sort of come in when it's all in their regard matured and stable.
Yes. When the moat is developed and when they've got a margin for error in terms of where they believe the intrinsic value is and where the share price is. So yeah, a bit hard to argue that would be in Tesla would be in Warren Buffett's territory at the moment, but look,
No.
they'll be buying big in 5 years' time, no doubt. But yeah, no, but yeah, like I was saying today, I think Warren Buffett's got 2 other people there looking to maybe take over from him, and they're a little bit younger, and I think he's given them. So one had about $1 billion, I think, and another one $2 billion, something like that, of discretion, and they're willing to look at early opportunities. So,
if Warren had given me $1 billion a couple of years ago, I might have bought $1 billion worth of Tesla and turned it into sort of $7 billion. That would have been good,
Well, or closer to 10 billion, probably.
Or 10 billion. Surely that would deserve a Christmas card, wouldn't it? From the big Buffett man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
I might have bought some Bitcoin for him too, but
yes, I would have actually asked for my first what would you call it, retainer, to perhaps be paid in Bitcoin a few years ago.
Yes.
Oh dear. So has anyone got any other news out and about? I hear that some people are having issues with spare tires, rims, anything. I'm sort of feeling there's some activity in the room there. Do you know anything about that, Brian?
Yeah, all right, I'll come in. Yeah, I've been on the hunt for a spare because I've borrowed the Tokwa spares on a couple of occasions, and I thought, I really need to have my own.
So what car have you got, Brian? Which version?
Just the SR Plus Model 3.
Yep, cool.
Yep. So did the usual Googling and tracked down Jack's Tyres. They've got quite a good website, and you put in your car details and comes up with about a dozen different rims that, supposedly do the job. So, of course, I went for the cheapest.
Yep.
It's an ROH Monaco. Looks nice. And I'll put a cheap tyre on it because the theory is that I may never use it. It'll just be sitting in the boot when we go into the country. So, all up about $330, I think. And picked it up. First thing was he slipped on a cheaper, nastier tyre that didn't have the right load rating on it. So I had to deal with that. But before I took it back to get that changed, I thought, well, I'll try it. And I just couldn't get it on. It would not go onto the wheel. So it turns out that that particular rim comes in two different stud patterns, 120 and the 114.3, which is what I need. And he'd given me the wrong one. So, I felt like a bit of a dummy that, I should have realized that a bit quicker, but you don't know because you're just trying to thread this wheel on. So anyway, I went down yesterday and picked up the correct rim. And at the point of doing that, I also said, well, you never gave me a spigot because the hub sizes are different between, what the Tesla is and what the rim's got. And he volunteered. He said, oh, yeah, and maybe your nuts won't go onto this rim. The nuts are too big. So he gives me 5 narrower nuts to use. It's all right. It's all right. It's only a spare. I'll never use it.
Yep.
So I got back to my shed, and it was a pig to get on. It was like threading a needle because the Tesla wheel's got a 19 mil hole. These ones only got 15 mil going over a 14 mil stud. So you've got to be exactly precise to sort of thread it on. So that was all right. But my concern after I did all that was the clearance between the brake hub and the rim. But Richard's assured me that that's fine. It's probably about 1.5 mil, and compared to the other wheel at the back, it's probably got a 5 or 6 mil clearance.
Yep.
But again, I may never use it. But the whole purpose of doing this, I want a Gene to be able to, sort of be proficient in getting a spare on. But
yeah,
I'll have to figure out some way to make it easier for it to get the height exactly right and sort of line up the holes and just push the thing on. So that's my story.
Yeah, cool, interesting. I mean, I think the issue with the clearance to the caliper is right because obviously all that geometry is fixed in place.
Yes.
Because the whole thing moves on the suspension anyway. It's all independent of that. So yeah, I dare say any clearance, it's not like anything's going to bend.
No. I read a bit about flexing and that sort of thing, but it's not as if it's going to be on a racetrack or anything like that. So yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. And hopefully I'll never need to use it. But
so I presume they restrict the reduced clearance of the actual hole, or the increased clearance on Tesla's original Aero wheels. I presume it means they're relying on a tapered nut to actually do the locating.
It is, and it obviously fits tight onto the hub as well.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yes, of course.
Whereas this wheel, if I had to get a spigot to sort of fill the gap, otherwise, yeah. Well, there's not a lot of play on the studs, so there wouldn't be much movement. But I've read stories where people haven't had the spigot to get the hub tight.
Yep.
And if there was like that 19 mil hole compared to a 14 mil stud, there's a bit of movement there,
yes.
And you can get a bit of a wobble up, and all of a sudden you break your studs off. So
yeah, right. Yeah.
Anyway, it's been a frustrating week, but I've learned a lot about wheels and all this sort of stuff, so I'll never make the same mistake. But yeah, I wish I'd just stuck to my guns and bought a Tesla rim. Would have been better.
Actually, on that point, I'm trying to buy a original 18-inch SR Plus wheel from Sydney at the moment.
That's the one on that Facebook.
Actually, Rob, it was. Yes, it was. Yeah, the one that Rob put up. So yep. I've contacted the guy. I just thought I'd ask whether Rob, have you ever heard of? His name is Casey, spelled Kaycee, Casey Ho, Ho.
No.
Not know anything about him?
No.
Yeah, because so we've been so he's been texting me back and forth on Messenger, and so he's actually been pretty good in organising fairly reasonable freight. So, and then he said, how would you like to pay? So I just said, look, I'm thinking half now and half upon delivery, ? Or I said, oh, do you have a PayPal account? Or, you know, I can do it through BSB and account number, internet banking. So and he's just come back and said, no, I don't think that's going to work. I will need upfront payment. So
Well, if you do PayPal, don't you have PayPal insurance then? If you don't get the products, PayPal will refund it if it's through.
yeah, that's why I thought I'd either use PayPal or give him half now and half upon delivery. So, but yeah, he said no to both. So,
Oh, right.
just, not sure.
PayPal's easy, isn't? Well, I guess it's easy to say, but if someone didn't have a PayPal account, I presume it's pretty easy to set one up pretty quickly and connect it to your bank account or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm.
So,
well, perhaps that answers a secondary question of whether, you know, because you want assurance that you're going to get this and not lose your money.
that's right. I mean, if I'd seen him on any of the forums making comments before or anything like that, you know, I'd probably just take the gamble. I would think, you know, probably wouldn't want to ruin his reputation for the sake of, you know, $500. But I've never seen him on any of the, you know, this is the only time I've ever seen him on Facebook or any of the forums. So,
or could he list it on eBay and you buy it through there? But I guess that's the same answer, isn't it? If he hasn't got a PayPal account, he's not going to want to do that.
right, yeah.
So
He's a Tesla owner. You can trust him.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that. I don't know that he is. So, yeah.
So what was it? How much was the freight? Just out of interest, quickly.
It wasn't too bad actually. About $90, something like that. It was less than 100 from memory. So, and 400 odd for the wheel. So $500.
I'm kicking myself. I saw that after I'd already gone through this rubbish with the Jack's tires. Anyway.
How do you spell his name, Peter?
Kaycee and surname Ho. He's got Brian. He's got
Rob,
three.
you posted the link, Rob. So you should already know who we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm just too lazy to look it up.
dearie me.
But
Brian,
Brian,
what are you going for, Jack?
he does have 3 wheels. So he had 4. He's
He's
keeping
got
one as a spare.
He's got a
And he's selling
2021 SR Plus.
Oh, okay.
So, Brian, what are you using for a jack if you need to change it in the middle of the bush, mate?
Well, I've bought a low profile trolley jack, but it's bloody heavy. It's about 14 kilo, I think. So it was definitely just to make it easier for the wife. So she jacked it up today when I was giving her the demonstration about how you change your wheel. And it all fell apart when I couldn't even thread the wheel on. But
You let her do it. She would have done it perfectly.
Probably would have, yeah.
She can probably thread a needle, mate.
Yeah. No, the trolley jack was good. That's just a super cheap thing, $100. Yeah, really good, but yeah, a bit heavy. So I wouldn't leave it in the car all the time. So if we're in the city, we just rely on calling Tesla. But as soon as we head out of the city, then you know, I'll have it in the garage at home and just chuck it in.
Brian, you may not know my story, but I got 5 kilometres out of my first set of one tyre. I've got a Model 3 Performance with a silly 20-inch low-profile tyres. Went round a roundabout and just clipped the curb.
Yeah.
Ruptured the tyre, so it was on a flatbed about half an hour after it arrived on a flatbed. So my wife said, I'm never going out in the car unless you get some. So I bought some 18-inch wheels.
You did.
And also bought a modern spare, which comes with this. It's all in. You know, it's on it. You got to lift it up. It's all packaged, and it's a wheel, the jack, everything. So you just bung in your boot when you go on a trip. Hope you never need it. So
no,
Brian's had it. He's borrowed it from the club. Yeah.
And that's good. And that's where I, as part of that, it had the extendable wheel wrench.
Yeah.
And absolutely brilliant. So I bought one of those for Jean as well. But It's a lot easier than the wheel brace, that's for sure.
They're 129 foot-pounds, those nuts.
Yeah.
So they're up there.
They are. And this thing is only $30, but it's just a brilliant piece of
Cool.
gear.
Just a question. When you jack up the Tesla, I'm not. Isn't there a sort of a spot you put it, and there's a little thing, a little stud you can put in to distribute the load? Is that?
Yep.
And is that sort of an important thing to have?
Yep.
Yeah, it is. I bought a couple from Testaries or one of the online mobs. So yeah, it sort of almost suctions in. So once you push it in, it sits there quite firmly.
Yeah.
And actually the other day I forgot all about it, and I went from Leeming to Ocean Reef and back again at night, and wake up in the middle of the night and thought, I bet I've lost it, and it was still sitting there. So they hang
like
on.
a magnet. Yeah.
Yeah, because when they jacked up my car and had a flat tire, it they fussed around for quite a long time trying to find the spot, and I sort of like, I don't know. It's,
Well, you can see
a bit
the
of a
spot.
creek as it lifted up. I thought, oh no, it's sort of
Well,
not a structural battery pack,
the spot is marked by the hole. So as long as you've got some sort of, even a book would sort of stop the jacks that are doing any damage under there. But these little hockey pucks, a lot of people just refer to them as a hockey puck. But definitely worth having if.
That's what it looks like.
That's it.
Yeah, I'll put some light on the subject.
Yeah,
It's got a little. It's held on by a little O-ring. That's what goes up into the hole. So it's a bit smaller. I used to use hockey pucks for my Lotus, but this is a bit more specialised than a $4 hockey puck.
That's a bit fatter than mine, I think, too, because that's one of the issues. Once you put that on, the car's low anyway, so trying to get the jack under it is it's a bit difficult. That's why I end up going for the low profile trolley jack, because I've got a couple of other trolley jacks in the shed, and they don't go under. I had before I bought the low profile, I had to back it up onto some blocks to give me the height.
Where do you get those?
All over the shop.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Just go online. They're everywhere.
Yeah, I told Peter Harris where I got mine the other day, and he said that they're out of stock at the moment. But yeah, there's plenty on eBay.
Okay.
Tesla used to sell the original ones too, which is where I got mine from. I can't remember if I think I probably would have got them from the US, but yeah, I was trying to find some for Pete Harris as well the other day, and I went on to the Tesla store and they didn't have them anymore, not even the US ones. So
Amazon seemed to have them for $39.
They're a little bit, the non-original ones seem to be a little bit higher profile, which makes it, gives you even less space to get a jack underneath. They just seem to be a little bit thicker. Maybe they're using a different material.
Lots of options there, aren't there?
Yeah.
In fact, I got some that were actually rectangular and quite low profile that were 3D printed for my Model X and S. But there's a whole lot of different styles. So yeah, if you just Google Tesla jack puck or something similar, you'll get a whole plethora.
There's a gazillion options on AliExpress from like $5.
And they probably work fine. It's just got to put it in the right spot, that's all.
I think that's the main purpose of them, rather than trying to protect the car, just to make sure you don't put the jack underneath the battery.
Yeah.
Have you seen the underside of the top of a Model 3 battery pack? I did today.
Yeah, I saw one in John Edwards's shop. Was that the one you saw?
Oh.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is pretty cool. Yeah.
Tell them the story about this battery.
Laying on its side, isn't it?
Vertically, yeah, it's amazing.
Yes, vertically.
And he was telling me he bought their starter, and the electrics to make it work were made by Jack Rickard, God rest his soul, a couple of weeks before he died. So that's pretty amazing. And this is a big thing that they're going to put out somewhere. I don't know where they're going to put it, but just to get the government going. They just want to get things working. It's pretty amazing. I was down there. You didn't hear this. I was down there putting a toe point in so he can be pulled out of the mud if Jürgen goes bush. They can pull him out because they wouldn't scrutineer it without a rear toe point. So I built him one today. I've got it fitted today. So.
Oh, cool. So you mount it on the back where the tow bar would go.
No, I'll show you a picture if you like of the finished. If you can see on my, don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
Yep. Nice.
It's
And,
pretty
Pretty
cool.
cool one.
So that's actually the toe point out of his old i3.
Cool.
So he and what I did, I made up a plate to go behind the crash structure. The crash, there you go. So I made that up. That's just steel, and it's isolated with plastic. And we welded a fitting that he got made up to go. It's got the same thread as his bar, like so.
Oh, nice.
And just drilled through the crash bar with a like so.
Very nice.
Got it all done, so that'll work.
It's almost like you've done that before.
No, I made it up as I was going along. Yeah.
He was a dentist.
I drilled
He did
things.
braces as well.
He thought I wasn't very subtle. I said, "Oh shit, you should have seen me work."
Dear.
So that's he said, "Oh, you enjoy that?" I said, "I love doing this shit. It's great fun."
Especially when you do it on other people's cars. So there's
Absolutely drilling a hole.
There's all
and coming out.
care, care and no responsibility.
No responsibility. No, it's good.
Cool. Nice one. Well, let's hope that it never gets used in anger. Let's hope that he uses it to pull someone else out.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the load rating on it would be, but it's be enough to pull the car out of a bog.
All he needs now is a sticker along the back that says ice recovery vehicle.
Indeed. Yeah. Or an iPace or a Taycan range extender.
Oh, Taycan. That's another story. I
Go
play
on.
golf. I play golf up at Joondalup, right? So I went up there in my Model 3 a couple of weeks ago, and they've now got on a post, they've got this thing that says Porsche destination charges. So I thought, I'll be cheeky and plug it in. Nothing happened. I said, okay, fine. Anyway, so so a couple of days ago, I went up and had a look at it, and it's just not powered, see. So I had a look, and it's got a little slot to put a key in the front. Then you can open the front, do whatever you do. And I thought, okay. So I look around the back, and there's a hole in the back, and all it is a 3-phase adapter that's plugged in that wasn't plugged in. So I could get my hand in there and plugged it in, put my car on, 11 kilowatts. Thank you.
Nice one.
Nice.
So
So
did
I'll
you put
do
it on
that.
PlugShare?
No,
Oh, where's
No,
Joseph? Joseph,
I
you'll be
don't know.
watching.
I don't know anything about it.
Joseph, where is it exactly, Richard?
No.
It's at the
It's at
Joondalup Golf Club.
course. Yeah, golf
Sorry?
course. Yeah.
Yes.
It's at the
Okay.
golf
So,
club.
so Joseph works near there, so he'll be coming out of ISO. Probably already is out of ISO. So stop laughing, Mr. Chapman. It's not funny. So Joseph, we want to unplug share tomorrow morning, please, and you got to test it on your Model 3. Make sure it works. He'll be onto it.
This is like a secret fishing spot, mate. You don't let.
Don't be like that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's right. Everyone has their own little secret charging spot that they don't want anyone else to use. Hey, Nigel.
And there's a little ad for all those secret charging spots. It's called
PlugShare. Yeah. But who pays for the electricity that's coming out of that?
The owner of the golf club.
Oh, good. I pay fees. Yeah, I'll plug in.
Yeah, well, and that's the whole point. Is there's no sign that says Porsche parking only or Porsche charging only.
No, it just says Porsche destination charger on it. Are there any electric Porsches in WA yet?
There are hybrids, but no pure EVs to my knowledge. So there's plenty of hybrid Panameras and Macans around. But
I would love to take a Taycan for a drive. That would be so good.
I'm apparently on the list, but I don't know how far down that list I am, given that I bought a Tesla instead.
Yeah.
There's a couple of Porsches coming in next couple of weeks.
Brilliant.
The guy that got the second Model S in WA is getting one.
Excellent.
And that could have been the reason there's a charger at Joondalup. And there's a guy out in the western suburbs who's got one.
Yeah,
Did you see?
They've been
Did you
rolling
see
out
the
the
real-
charges for a while for the hybrid guys to use.
Yeah, right.
Did you see the real world range testing of the 4S Taycan? It's rated at 200, and they got 303 out of it.
Yeah, it's so impressive.
59% more than, and all the Teslas got less than their rated range. So that was interesting.
Yeah, it's the EPA test cycle. Just never accurate.
But Rob Mauer did on his Tesla Daily podcast, looked at the way that test was run, and he poked all sorts of holes in that. Might be worthwhile listening. I think it was his last episode or his second last episode that's uploaded. So yeah, 13th or the 12th of February. Yeah, well worthwhile listening to that.
He
went.
Sorry, but he noted one correlation, which was the temperature at which the cars were tested. So the Taycan was tested at a relatively warmer temperature than the Tesla. And he actually implied that temperature corresponded to the range. So that
59%?
No, not that. No. The fact that the Taycan had a slightly longer range than the model, was it a 3 or was it S? It couldn't have been the S.
They had a few models.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had lots of cars. It's great.
But what he was highlighting was that the watt hours per kilometre or per mile didn't seem to correspond with the range at all. So but it did for most cars, or at least the difference between the two was you could probably put that down to rounding error, or was insignificant. But did he say, I think he said 12.5% or something like that difference between what the watt hours per mile stated versus the range. So that just seemed way too much. So
yeah, it was sort of inconsistent. If the Porsche had a 59% greater range, it didn't have a 59% lesser consumption per watt hour.
Yes.
So or per mile. So it seemed inconsistent. The results were mutually inconsistent. They just unless they had sandbagged the battery or they'd driven beneath zero for another 50 k's or something, because Porsche have a different way of charging the batteries.
No, they was stopping the test at 10 kilometers of remaining range for each car, which he said is another inconsistency, because some manufacturers may leave a little bit, a bigger buffer, in the battery. So whereas others might not. So he had a good point. The way to do this is just do it all on the same day, same conditions, same road, charge them to 100, charge all the cars to 100%, and then keep on going as far as you get to, and have a truck ready to pick them up until you get to 0%. And there's your true range.
Yep, exactly.
Or until they stop, literally until they just stop.
Yeah, exactly.
And then funny things happen to some of these cars when they stop. Sometimes they lock, and sometimes they do this, and sometimes they do that. It gets a bit ugly. That's all part of growing up.
That's all part of the fun, isn't it? That's you just put a sign that says vehicle under test, and it's all good.
So Porsche are actually advertising. I just did a quick look at the update. They've got 4 destination charges in Western Australia.
Where are they?
There's one at Cape Mentelle in Margaret River, one at Swings and Roundabouts in Yallingup, one at Bunker Bay Resort, and one at Joondalup. So clearly they've worked out their demographic pretty well.
It's golfers and wine.
Simon Margaret River in a couple of days. I'm going to nip down to Swings and Roundabouts, and
I'm going down to Bustleton and Margaret River in a week or two. So I'm going to go hunting, I think.
A couple of those are on PlugShare, actually. I remember the Bunker Bay
I just had a quick look for the Swings and Roundabouts and Cape Mentelle one, and they weren't, but I might go put them on. I got to beat Joseph there. Don't, Joseph. We know you're listening.
I think. Oh no, I was going to say I think Joseph's already been there, but that's the wrong one.
Actually, while we're speaking of charges, I was at the RAC one in West Perth today, and still got witches' hats all around, still all taped up. That's very frustrating.
Might have to give Tim a call.
You know, Ken, that when I left that little comment on a certain forum, that was nearly a month ago.
Yeah, I've already taken you to task about that.
Yeah, but that was okay to do that a month ago, but it's been another month, mate. Come on. A month that a 50 kilowatt control hasn't been there for us to enjoy the use of at our expense.
I know it's been gloomy the last couple of days, so I haven't had enough solar. So,
oh, speaking of which, a shout out to a gentleman whose name I've just forgotten, but anyway, he reminded me or told me that the Cogenup fast DC charger is free to use. And that's something that actually is on PlugShare and it is on ChargeFox, but I just naively presumed you have to pay for charging, but it's not, it's actually free. So a big shout out for Synergy providing that for free at the moment.
Is that
the hardware? It's the hardware store one, isn't it?
No. Fast DC charger.
Okay.
Tritium is actually free.
Oh, so that's new there, is it?
It's been there for about 2-3 months.
A month.
Yeah. Oh, right, yeah.
That Chatamo 50 kilowatt.
Yes.
Oh, you're looking at it. Cool.
Which I'm trying to bring up, and this computer is struggling. Oh. As you can see, dollars free.
The one that got you.
Wow. Yeah. Right.
I don't know if it's meant to be free forever, but it's certainly free right now. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I looked up on ChargeFox's app, which I think you need to use to activate it. Although I'm not certain of that, to be honest, because I've never used it. But on the ChargeFox app, it says free as well.
Oh, well, that's how when you sorted then.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like I said, I just naively presumed there would be a fee and just didn't think anything else of it until I was educated today. So that was cool. So
has anyone told Carmen yet?
Well, we'll tell her if she pops on later.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And I suppose while we're talking of chargers, the one at the Stockland Shopping Centre in Baldivis has been playing up since before Christmas. And it wasn't working a couple of weeks ago for days. And then I noticed when I pulled lifted up the plug socket to go into my car, that there was the cable had got a twist in it, and I plugged it in, it worked fine. I went back a day or two later and lifted it up, noticed that it wasn't twisted, and plugged it in and it didn't work, and I reset and so on. And then today I suddenly had a thought. I just plugged it in, it wasn't twisted, so I pulled it out, gave it one twist one way, plugged it in, nothing. Pulled it out, back, and another twist the other way, plugged it in, and it connected and powered on. So I went back again later and tried it, and same again. It with one twist in it. Don't ask me which way, I've forgotten. So that's the
I was going to do exactly that.
Yeah, no, I can't remember, honestly. So if it doesn't work one way, go back the other way. So it's obviously the communication cables. There's two that goes around. They're called, well, Rob told me that they go around and around the cable, and they get micro fractures. So obviously twisting it one way opens up the micro fracture, twisting it the other way squashes them together, and it seems to be working. So I did have a long chat again with the management there, and tried to explain it to them, and said, you know, you need to get someone who knows about these to either replace the cable or repair it. I don't know if it's repairable. Rob, I think you got Gemtech to repair yours.
They did. I gave it to John Edwards, so he could pull it apart and see what actually was happening to the cables.
And he didn't repair it.
He found multiple fractures through the cable.
Yeah. So I suggested to them that they find someone who actually does it, or replace the cable. And they said, oh, we've got our set contractors. And I go, yeah, but if your set contractor hasn't got the faintest idea, you really need to find someone that does know what they're doing.
if they're Stockland contractors, are we the same? They might be the same ones that just replaced the HPWC at Riverton Forum.
Oh, is that one working now?
Yes.
Oh,
so
the long cable as well as the short.
Yes. The other day, a nose cone Model S parked next to my car. So I plugged in on the north side, the short cable side, and I plugged in, was charging. A nose cone Model S, like Rob's, but this one was a red one, plugged in while I was away. And when I got back to my car, both were dead. So presumably it just popped the circuit breaker, because the old nose cones, depending on what sort of charge they've got, they can pull the whole 22 kilowatts. And what happened was that was dead that day. A couple of days later, I went there, and the short lead one, the north one, worked, but the long lead one was unpowered. I then went there today, and there was another regular Model 3 grey one plugged in on the short lead version. And I thought, well, I'll go and plug in and see, and it was working. So today, both were working perfectly at Riverton. But the electrical contractor, I had a chat with the blokes. There was the guy and his apprentice replacing the long lead one, because that had stopped working some time ago. So I presume they would probably do the Baldivis Stockland work as well. So they do know what they're doing. The problem is, I don't think Tesla sells a lead as a spare. So all they'll do is just supply or buy another HPWC, and they'd have to install it new.
That seems a bit of a waste if it is just the cable.
I know, and it's a terrible waste, because it is the cable. The cable isn't fit for purpose, to be honest. It's been too tightly wound or something, and it's prone for fractures. I think, if you're at home, it probably may not, because at home, you only do like a 90-degree action from the wall to your car, and it's always the same position, always the same person doing it. Whereas when it's at a shopping centre, look, I saw a car actually forward park at Riverton, because it's got a long lead, and he actually, pulled the lead a long way, and it never gets wrapped back onto the charger the same way. So it's always twisting one way or the other, and it's always being flexed in interesting ways.
Yeah, look, I went there to Baldivis a couple of days ago, and the charging plug was on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes it's only a short cable, but it's looped over the top of the charger and then plugged in. And sometimes it's just plugged in. So yeah, you're right. People just sort of pick it up and do what they like with it.
Yeah, and it's never the same way. So they're a lot more vulnerable probably to failing. But sadly, I fear, particularly the Type 2 ones, and possibly the American ones, they're probably all going to fail eventually and need to be replaced. And that's notwithstanding what happens at Williams, what has happened at Williams and other locations, including Riverton, actually, where the bottom of the cable gets pulled out because the stainless steel saddle is basically too loose. It's not mounted tight enough, and it just eventually pulls through. And once it does that, then you're in mortal danger of breaking the control pilot line, which is just screwed into the circuit board, and then you're in big trouble. But yeah, thanks for the info, Nigel. So that'll be good for Joe and Seb, that if it doesn't work one way, twist it the other. And a big shout out to them watching later on.
Yeah. So there's like a neutral position where it's all not, and then you twist it one way and you can feel a bit of tightness, put it back to neutral, twist it the other way, and there's a bit of tightness. And so it's one of those two.
Yeah,
I'll try and remember when I go back.
The Riverton one had exactly a similar thing where I could put it into a loop and it would work. And as soon as I opened the loop, it would stop. Close the loop, work. Broken cable.
Yeah. So
there you go. Cool. So has anyone else got any news or anything that's happened lately?
Did you see RACQ have got they got 3 trucks. They're rescue trucks. Then they've putting EV chargers on them.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, interesting. did you see how they were they going to have batteries or a small generator or something, or?
No, I read it. It was in one of those newsletters. I forget which one now. Driven.
Yep. Yep.
I think they've got 3 trucks, and they just had a picture with it on the back behind the cab, EV charger.
So when you say trucks, you mean like a shroud?
I think it's their low loader trucks that they can put a car up on. And so, because they were talking about it can either stand there at the side of the road and charge and have you going in 30 minutes, or when the car's on the back, it can be charging whilst being towed. So I think it's their tow trucks they're going to put.
Yeah, right.
3 of those. And I thought that was a good idea. And somebody put it out on Twitter and then copied in RACWA.
Well, John Edwards already has a solution a la the Kona.
Indeed.
Which could be quite a viable and cheap response vehicle, because it can basically sit in a depot forever and someone could just jump in it and take it for a spin if and when they need it to charge you up.
But then he'd rightfully be able to put a sticker on the back saying Tesla recovery vehicle on the back of the Hyundai.
It doesn't have to be just Teslas. It could be other cars.
That's until, Pete, we get our Cybertrucks, and then we can have a proper. Imagine if you could just drive a Model 3 into the back. No, you can't do that. Into the back of the Cybertruck.
Like the ATV.
Yes, that's right. Exactly right. Perhaps the Model 2, you could do that too. Almost. Oh, speaking of which, that reminds me of a 3.5 hour nearly conversation that Elon Musk had with Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Which was sort of kind of interesting. There were lots of little tidbits for anyone that's a Roadster reservation holder, for which I can confess I'm not. Not with Tesla at $780, I'm not. He did mention that the SpaceX packaged Roadster would have, obviously, as we know, cold gas. It's actually just air, compressed air thrusters.
At 10,000 PSI, he said.
Yes, and that's not scary at all, having that kind of pressure leaning up against your back, basically, on the back seat.
A scuba tank's only 3,000, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just nuts.
Yeah, well, and it's a COPV, so it's a composite overwrapped pressure vessel. So what could possibly go wrong?
Even high pressure scuba is only 300 bar, and the Fireys have 300 bar, but it's well beyond that.
Yeah.
So
and he's going to get into the hover.
No, he said that was possible and he'd like to, but you got like little technicalities, like might kill someone or something like that. He goes, if it hovered at a meter, then it probably wouldn't kill the driver. It would just mess up the suspension a bit. But he did say that the cold gas thrusters had a thrust of 3 tons.
Yeah, but that's all easy. That's easy shit. But how do they do it so it's quiet?
Oh, it will not be quiet because that thrust will be coming out supersonically. But I did a couple of numbers on the back of an envelope. In fact, it wasn't even a back of an envelope, and the answer came. It was just a little bit of maths here, like a bit of S equals UT plus half AT squared, and in the end, I got to 0.97 seconds.
And that's without turning the engine on?
No, that's with the engine. No, that's...
Oh, that's with both of them?
Yeah, I presumed that a standard Roadster would do 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. So it would do... It had an acceleration of 13.89 meters per second squared. And the cold gas thrusters, presuming the Roadster weighs 2 tons, would add another 14.7 meters per second squared. So that's 28.59 meters per second squared. That's almost 3G.
Yeah.
So this thing will be pulling nearly 3G. So you'll be feeling like an astronaut for at least a couple of seconds.
As long as she's pretty.
Yes. Sorry, no, for 1 second, you'll feel like an astronaut.
You could drive that straight up the side of a building.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, you could. In fact, you could do that just with the gas thrusters alone, because they're pushing out 3 tons on a 2-ton vehicle.
Well, the tyres aren't going to do anything, are they? If it's going straight up.
No, that's right. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you're going to do 0 to 100 in less than 1 second.
Have you seen the video of the fast cars versus, the 0 to 300 kilometers an hour drag racing of the 5 cars? And they start off with an Audi and they end up with a top fuel dragster, right? All these others are doing, getting up to the 300. Well, this thing, the gauge just goes whoom up to 500 and then back. So it's 8 G's acceleration, and 8 G's deceleration under the parachute.
Wow.
So it gets 0 to 300 kilometers in 1.5 seconds. That's acceleration. Now, how do you not black out? I mean, what the?
Well, maybe you do, and you just wake up and go, "What was that?" And you're all stopped. It's all good.
But you have to hyperventilate.
8 G's.
to pump all the blood into your brain.
So it's a 16 G change.
Yeah, well, the fighter pilots have got pressure suits, so when they're doing their high G turns, it keeps the blood in the chest cavity. So,
well, we're talking about drag racing. This is my background picture. Oh, sorry, I'll just have to. So this. We'll try the other side.
Oh yeah.
Is that your drag version?
Yeah, hang on. I'm trying to.
You don't know which way is left there, Pete.
Okay. Why is it wearing a dress?
That looks very Cybertrucky.
Well, yeah. Look, it's
looks broken to me.
This is my first watercolor in 40 years, and it took about 10 or 15 minutes. And I waiting for my mother. I just bought her a paint set and an easel and a bit. And I sort of she was out and she's in a nursing home, and I was just going to put a slash of color on there so she could see it when she came back, but I thought, oh, just
that printing is excellent.
So it's my first one. I haven't touched. What I did some acrylics with my mother when I was 6, and that's the last.
I was going to say, was that perhaps one of the ones you had just she had flitted away somewhere and she just brought out and went, oh, this is something you drew when you were 6, and it looks just like a.
I've actually got paintings. That on a wall. It's from when I was young. But
it's good to see your painting hasn't deteriorated, Peter. It's as good as it was when you were 6.
Well, it's far better than it was when I was 6. But someone said, someone who saw this said, look, you got such fine detail. You can see all the things. And I was just thinking, well, yeah, the gaps and the doors are a bit big.
So it's a real Tesla.
Yeah.
So it's a real Tesla. Yeah.
Waiting for that.
So, anyway, that's the drag version, because I drew the back wheel first and I didn't know what I was doing, and the paint went everywhere. So it's a bit skew-if, but the front one turned out better. So anyway, so it looks like a big drag tire on it.
I like it.
Yeah.
Speaking of panel gaps, did you see there was about a 10-minute video recorded at Giga Shanghai. I think there was a reporter there doing an interview with various staff members going through the factory, which was pretty interesting. But you look at the actual panel gaps and they're almost perfect from these cars coming out of Shanghai. It was just awesome.
You wait till the German ones come out. They'll have to be perfect to sell them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, indeed.
Yeah, new paint shop.
Yeah. But what really surprised me at the factory is that Elon said, there's 1,000 robots we've got, and we cut when they cut back the have a single casting for the take off 300. It's just amazing. So
yes, and he's also going to take another 300 out for the front car. No, was it the front casting?
Yeah.
Is another
300 at each end. Yeah.
Yes, and then with the structural battery pack, there's probably another several dozen coming out. And what was cool is if you look at, well, in particular the Texas Gigafactory, they've actually got all of those robots are in sea containers on site at the moment, because they've been receiving them by trucks and then decanting them out of the truck into a sea container. And they've got dozens of 40-foot sea containers, presumably chockers full of robots. large and small. So it's just amazing, what they're
So
doing.
how many gigapresses are they going to have in Texas?
There's an outline for 3 in
3.
one section of the building. That's already, you can see that, which is completely different to Giga Berlin, which has, it's either 6 or 8. I think it might be closer to 8, because in the building it's sort of square, and I think there's 4 by 4. So they've got 8, I think, in Berlin, but at the Texas factory, in the section they've built so far, there is a provision for 3.
Yeah, according to the little video from Randy, he's shown that there's 3 gigapresses there.
Yeah, but that's not to say, they've only sort of erected, not even half, probably a third of the factory so far, maybe rough, or maybe, yeah, a bit over a third. So there might be other gigapresses, because don't forget, Elon has said of the Cybertruck that they're going to do an 8,000-ton version for its bed, for the back part of the Cybertruck. So that may not be, actually, it's not either one of those gigapresses, that, because the gigapress at Austin already has its part number, which is a 6100, whatever. So we've got the Tesla logo, the whole thing's there. In fact, I've got an image of it somewhere. But the 8,000-ton press is probably yet to be built or installed. So Texas factory will probably have more. Like they might have, I don't know, 6, 8 gigapresses. Because
what do you think? What do you think about the legacy automakers? What are they thinking? I mean, they're going to be pumping these cars out pretty cheap. What are the legacy guys thinking? That they've been stamping cars for the last 100 years. What are they going to do?
Well, the problem is that all their factories are built and have zero value, probably. Like they've been depreciated down to oblivion, so they don't care, in the sense that they're just, Tesla wants because they're building new factories, they want the cheapest process. So the cheapest process is to buy less robots, because I guess, actually robots do have a cost to run. It's not just their installed cost, it's also ongoing costs. But if you've got a factory that's been completely depreciated, I guess you'll just keep running it until you stop selling those cars. What's the incentive? There's no incentive for them. Everything they've got to do is spend money.
But they'll have
just to defend their current turnover, whereas all that Tesla has to do is spend money to grow their turnover. So for every dollar Tesla spends, they get more turnover. For every dollar an ICE car manufacturer spends, they're just attempting to try and reduce, to stem the bleeding of loss of market share. So their bean counters will be going crazy, going, well, you can't just write off all these factories and just build another one, because you're going to waste so much money. But then again, if you don't, you're just going to go broke anyway.
It's not just that. The legacy auto model is based on deriving a lot of return from the vehicles from servicing and from selling parts for the manufacturers. So, every time you go to an EV and it replaces a ICE car for that manufacturer, it gets rid of that whole revenue stream, or most of it. So yeah, they're just chasing their tails. The best they can hope for is to chase their tails.
Yeah, on Transport Evolved, someone put on their forum, someone put a posting about GM have announced they're going to be carbon neutral by 2040 or whatever. And people were questioning how they were going to do it. And I suggested that they could do it this year, declaring bankruptcy and stop making ICE cars.
This is Cynical Corner. Anyone else?
Well,
and talking of being, sorry, Pete.
You got.
No, I was just saying, and talking to being cynical, have you seen the document from the federal government and ARENA and their future fuels paper? Perth can get 800,000 times 2 for EV charging in Perth?
And apparently the first part of those funds is going to be used to put in 50 kilowatt or faster DC chargers to get rid of the black spots, the charging black spots.
There
So
aren't
this-
any
hang
in
on,
Perth.
hang on.
So this is
all of
great,
WA
right?
is black. Like the whole thing is
Well-
a black spot. It's a
well,
black hole.
Well, I worked out there was just over a dozen, maybe 14 chargers in WA that were over 50 kilowatts. If you don't include the aging, RAC electric highway chargers. So yeah, so apart from those 14 spots, yeah, I think it would just be easier just to mark out those 14 spots and do it the other way rather than and just say the rest of WA is a black spot. But look, it's good, but yeah, that policy, is very different from what it looks like. When you just superficially look at it, but it is good. It's if we're being cynical, look, it's. I mean, Zach Kirkup's talking WA. Zach Kirkup's policy, which Rob alerted me to. So Rob, you might want to speak to that a bit more. You're probably more across it, but yeah, that I mean, there's some fantastic points there. So they're talking about getting rid of coal-fired generation for electricity by 2025. So some of that's already being done, but that's fantastic. Completely making the whole electricity grid in WA zero emissions by 2030. But there were a couple of misleading paragraphs there. So they were comparing it directly to Labor's policy in that Labor's policy is zero emissions by, is it 2035, Rob, from memory?
2030.
Statewide?
2030, Labor.
2030, okay.
So that's government emissions. Government emissions.
No, that's Liberals. So yeah, so Zach Kirkup was saying it's no. So Labor was by 2050. Sorry, was statewide zero emissions, and so they said they will do the whole of state government zero emissions by 2030, 2 decades ahead of Labor. But they're comparing apples with oranges. So Liberals were talking about state government, Labor was talking about the whole state. So quite a big difference, but still very. How'd you phrase it, Rob? A case of throwing the cat amongst the pigeons.
Yeah, look, he's not. Look, we let's get to the point. They're not going to get voted in, but he's thrown a grenade into the Labor Party, and the Labor Party fell for a hook, line, and sinker because they turned around and said it's going to cost thousands of jobs. Well, that's going to stick. That's going to stick like mud for the next 4 years.
But there's something that a certain Mr. Stokes said of Collie, where you could basically turn it into a pumped hydro scheme.
Yeah.
So there's the pit that they've got to try and rehabilitate, which is just almost impossible. But you could then actually have dams. So this would be actually the lower reservoir, and you pump the water up into holding dams and backwards, and you'd obviously cycle it backwards and forwards. And you could save, apparently, according to Kerry Stokes, you could actually save or avoid $1.3 billion of environmental restitution costs by spending 650 on a pumped hydro scheme.
And what you could do is you could pump the water from the lower to the higher reservoir with a solar farm or a wind farm or a combination of both.
That's
and
exactly what you do.
And it's not like we haven't done that in Australia before. There's a company on the stock exchange listed called GenX, GNX is the code, and they're doing exactly that in Queensland.
Well, in the UK, they've actually got one of those dams and hydro plants. I forget where it was, but they've literally got that same situation, and they can turn that on within tens of seconds.
Wales. That's in Wales.
Yes.
It's the case of everyone turns their kettle on during the advert.
Coronation Street or
And-
whatever.
That's
These
why they
vendors-
built
Neighbours.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
The problem with Collie is, and as that story points out, it's a $1.6 billion rehabilitation to do it correctly. Because if you don't do it correctly, you're going to have toxic water, and you're going to have the bird life and the animals dropping dead in the water. So that water is undrinkable. It's unusable unless it's done correctly.
Yeah. But and going back to Zach Kirkhup's policy, so the cynic in me was thinking, well, we know he's got no chance of winning. There was, I think, only one poll that was taken. There's basically no polls, but the one poll basically showed that it'd just be a disastrous loss for Liberals. I think they would only have something like 4 seats or something left. I can't remember, but it didn't look good. So I'm thinking, and interestingly, Zach Kirkhup's one of his many roles on his bio is I forget, but it's something along state-federal relations. That's one of his roles. So he's the shadow minister for state-federal relations. So you would think the federal government would know about his policy, or would have known about his policy before he announced it. And considering, how different it is from anything that the federal government stands for, I'm just wondering, did they just say, okay, you've got no chance to win. If you just bomb out, well, then we can just say, look, we tried it. We tried it in WA. We tried to go, 100% green electricity grid, and look at what happened to Kirkup. The people don't want it. He's just, he got killed in the election. So that's the cynic in me, but I'm hoping that's not the case. But Rob, you mentioned that he drives a Leaf.
Yeah, I know 2 years ago, Nissan in Mandurah had given him the Leaf to use. So whether he's still driving that or not, I don't know.
Right.
But maybe I'll contact his office and see how that's going.
Yeah.
But I think you're right, Pete. The cynic in you has got something pretty close to the mark there, I reckon.
I might be on.
I hope not. But then I was thinking, and if he's basically, that's his Hail Mary, and if he pulls a miracle and manages to save some seats or what have you, well, basically, Scott Morrison's crew will be looking at that and just thinking, well, it's a no-loss situation for us. If he bombs out, well, that helps us. If he does well, that's all right too. So that might help us with the far right-wing component of our party. So I don't know. What do you think, Rob?
I think I just like he's throwing a grenade. I think it's good.
Same.
Stir some trouble. We're not going to get anywhere unless people stir things up.
It seems like that's going to be is it just me or is it just us? But is this not shaping up to be the main issue in the state election? I mean, there's big issues. There's COVID, there's fires, all the rest of it. But there's a recovery. But is this potentially the most contentious issue, or the most talked about one, the most debated one?
I don't think so.
You can see that that one problem that people to the left of centre have is anything to do with coal mining is a big issue with loss of jobs if you just simply shut it down. So federally, they've got the Labor Party have issues, and we don't want to get too political per se, for the sake of it, but they have issues where there's a section that say, well, we've got to preserve these jobs, and what you're going to do is you're going to put a whole lot of people out of work, and that's not what our raison d'etre is. We want to preserve jobs and stop jobs leaving the economy. But they need to get that on the other side. They need to go, well, there's also opportunity. Like, you know, when internal combustion engine cars, or let's call it horseless carriages, became popular. Yes, there were many less farriers and all that sort of stuff for you know, for servicing horses, but those people either retired, you know, and they weren't replaced, so they were lost by attrition, or they just re-skilled, and the farriers became, rather than changing horseshoes, they changed brake shoes in cars. So
I became extinct.
Well,
I'm going to cry.
The Nigel Farriers were
nothing lasts forever there, Nigel.
Peter, this state election, there is just doesn't seem to be any traction with the state election. The media are looking for discussion points, and there is none.
Yeah.
You know, like whereas the previous election 4 years ago, there was a lot of talk about Western Power and a lot of talk about row 8, and it was quite divisive. At the moment, it just seems to be just rolling along as like we're going to have an election in 3 weeks' time and it's all over.
Well, I think it is that the papers and reporters have all just gone, Mark McGowan's going to win. What's the point?
Well, Rob, I think like you mentioned it before, like the strategy the Labor is going with is they're giving him a very small target. They're not giving anyone anything to shoot at, and why would you? You know, if you put yourself in their shoes, you know, you can understand it. But going back to your point, Harold, earlier with the jobs, one problem that I have is politicians always talk about jobs, and they pile all jobs into this one bucket, and it's jobs. But what they don't realise is some jobs, or trying to keep afloat zombie jobs, costs other jobs and possibly more of those jobs. So, you know, you got to look at the economics of trying to subsidise sectors or trying to subsidise jobs that are going to go by the wayside, whether you like it or not. Yeah. I mean, you know, GM have said no more electric vehicle, no more internal combustion vehicles after 2030. Jaguar again this week. You know, Tata owns Jaguar, so they said, was it
2025?
Was it 2025?
Yeah.
Yes. And they also own Land Rover, and they said 60% of the Land Rovers will be hybrids or electric by 2035, I think. Yeah, so that's where I got 2035 from. So the whole world's moving this way. And, you know, with the change in government and with the blue wave in the US, the fact that, you know, they've got the Senate as well, we're just getting left behind. These jobs aren't going to exist in 10 years' time or in 5 years' time. Doesn't matter how much money you throw at it. So why be throwing good money after bad in the short term when you could be spending a fraction of that money to create a lot more new jobs, you know?
And retrain some of these people.
Absolutely. Or even spend some of that money to help them transition. Yeah. But even to support them, even give them some handouts, give them job keeper for 6 months, you know.
Too much of that, but most of us are beyond retraining.
Yes, that's right. Well, no, you know, Pete, you can teach old dogs new tricks.
You can, but
speaking of which, actually that is a fantastic segue because I'm just super intelligent and no one can beat me. This old dog, namely myself, learnt that today, in fact, and it's because I'm looking at Carmen and I remember that what we were speaking of before she arrived back tonight, and welcome back, Carmen, was that the Cogenup fast DC charger is free to use. And I just presumed it actually cost money, but as an old dog, I was taught a new trick, which was look it up on the interwebs and it's free. So yeah, just letting you know there, Carmen, that the Cogenup fast DC charger is free. And that was an awesome segue of being an old dog learning a new trick, that being me, not you, of course. But so when you go to your sister's place, you can do it free of charge and quickly. But I can't hear you, you're muted, so I can't hear you. Yes. Still,
Oh, I thought,
yes.
okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, well, hi guys. No, that would be really good. I assumed it was chargeable as well,
Yep.
though I have got credit kilometers, and I've got more introductions to Tesla. So
Cool.
I'm keeping Harry to his word.
So that's good. You're keeping Harry busy, and
I'm collecting kilometers.
awesome. So when Perth's mythical supercharger comes, and you're in between appointments and you need to charge quickly, somewhere in Perth in a mystery location, there will be a supercharger coming soon.
I don't think it'll happen though, because I work from home, so it's easy to charge.
True.
And I've got solar panels. Actually, I have to ask Pete about the smart meter. They forgot all about it, and today they remembered and sent me a quote, but it was double what I thought. So I need a bit of advice on that. I thought it was going to be between $400 and $500, and they've sent me a quote for $1,000.
Yeah, I read your email just before coming on, so thanks for that. Yeah, look, $1,000 for the Fronia smart meter is not a huge amount. It's not cheap, but it's not a huge amount.
Okay.
But there are better options, like I mentioned the other day, which are a lot cheaper and they do a lot more. So, you know, the Fronia smart meter, all it will do is, so at the moment, all you can presumably do is know how much power your solar system is generating. What you don't know is what portion of that is being exported to the grid and what portion of that you're self-consuming in the home. So actually, Harold, you've got SolarWeb, haven't you?
Yeah, I was just trying to bring it up there, Pete, as you were speaking. Actually, I might be able to bring it up on the computer.
All right, I'll keep on talking while you.
Yeah, you just talk amongst yourselves, and I'll try and.
And so the only other thing that you may be able to do is, and Harold's done this with his, is incorporate the battery feed into that chart as well. The solar analytics monitoring that I use, it does all that as well. One of the great features of it is, so people put in solar systems, but invariably they'll be looking as to whether batteries are economic or not down the line. And what's great about this system is that it's constantly bubbling away in the background, monitoring and doing calculations. And it will tell you, so it's got a built-in battery calculator. So it will tell you, is a battery feasible for you? If it is, you know, when should you put one in and how big should it be? So rather than, and it's all obviously independent, it's all science-based, rather than, you know, you're having to rely on the word of a salesperson as to, you know, who's incentivized, you know, to sell you the biggest battery he can. You're, you know, it's independent and all the rest of it. Depending on, so I think you mentioned you're on 3-phase. So there's a 6 CT. CTs are the clamps that you put around the cables that can measure the electricity flow. So you would, if 3-phase, that would use up all of those, but you could buy another unit and then you could monitor up to 6 sub-circuits in the home as well. So you could disaggregate your consumption. So you could have, let's say, your, you know, your wall charger on one, you could have your hot water system on the other, your aircon on the third, you know, and all the rest of it. So, and look, those systems installed, look, anyone, theoretically, any electrician can install them. You're better off going with someone who's got a bit of experience with these, because even Solonics themselves say that if installed incorrectly, you know, they don't guarantee they will measure correctly. So there is apparently a wrong way to install it as well. The guy that I've been using, he's sold the most number of these in WA, and he's installed the most number of them in WA as well. And he's fairly reasonable, probably a little bit more than what you'd pay for someone that's never installed them. But yeah, so probably closer to the 600 mark, 600, 650. It's assuming it's a standard installation, and most of them are. And the good thing also is with your Fronius, it's reliant on your Wi-Fi connection, and it's a wireless connection as well. Whereas this has got a built-in 3G, 4G SIM card as well. So, and, you know, like I said, I think it was last week, you know, 10 years in the industry, I've learned one thing is that 90% of your calls to the support center will be about comms issues. And most of them will be to do with the connection. So this bypasses a lot of that too. And it keeps, I think, about 24 hours worth of, so it's got a little bit of internal storage. So if the connection drops out, it can catch up. So I quite like it. I'm actually getting it installed. It was supposed to happen on Monday, but I'm getting it installed on my house. I'm getting quite a few of them put in, about 4 of them actually. Yeah, I'll be able to see quite a lot.
Okay, fantastic. Can you send me the details?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. Well, I agree with the experience. There's no point in reinventing the wheel. And the guy that installed the Powerwall was very good, and they knew what they were doing. So that worked too. So if I had to call someone else, it would either be the solar panel guy or the Powerwall guy. But if someone's already reinvented the wheel, no point in doing it again. Yeah, great. And batteries, I'm hoping they'll come down.
Well, they've been going up. They've been going up.
Oh, really?
So Tesla increased their wholesale price by $700 and then another $500 just recently. But those are short-term movements. But yeah, in the long term, you know, they're probably going down by a good 10, 15% a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see the price of the Generation 3 battery from, I think Tesla's just put theirs up. I think that's more to do with exchange rate, but the Red Flow is just about, I think it's final stages of testing. Be interesting to see what that does. And that's about 10 kilowatts.
The Red Flow could be a real dark horse, because one advantage it has is I think it doesn't degrade per se with number of cycles.
It's guaranteed for 10 years, and so far the tests have been stunning. This is on the previous generation, but yeah, I think the ideal combination though is 2 batteries. I think they've got a cleaning cycle. I'm not 100% sure how that works, but obviously better in pairs, but I think they're overcoming that with the 3rd generation battery.
And the thing is, with houses, you need a lot of storage, more than you think. So, you know, you can have 20 kilowatt hours and think that's a lot, but you can chew through that very quickly if you've got a few split air conditioners running. You know, for a house to be fairly self-sufficient or to really take advantage of solar / you know, different tariff rates, you probably want more like 30 or 40 kilowatt hours if you can, unless you're very economical. Like, I mean, I think Pete, your place, you don't use aircon much. So if you're not really using much aircon, then you don't really need a lot of power. But it's the aircon that really produce.
That's true, but we've got no scheme water. So every time we flush the toilet or turn the tap on, we're using electricity because the pressure pump comes on and then everything runs on electricity. So, and we're charging 2 electric cars and all the rest of it. But yeah, a good rule of thumb is, you know, if you work out how much you use during daylight hours, and if you look to target at least that with your battery storage, that's not a bad rule of thumb. It means you're, you know, it means you're using the grid more as a backup. So
yeah.
Oh, well, I definitely use a lot of power. I do have ducted air conditioning, which I live on all the time, and a pool and boutique. So all of that uses.
The pool chews a lot of juice because you're using nearly a kilowatt and you're doing it for 8 hours. So there's 8 units already for nothing, and that's getting you nothing. It's just the pool. And have you got a pool heater? Have you got the?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't.
because that adds more, because obviously a pool heater is a secondary pump that runs, you know, most of the time as well.
Might even be worthwhile having a look. Have you got, do you know if you've got a variable speed pump? So when your pool pump comes on, is it always the revs and the noise, does it always sound the same or does it vary? Do you know?
Sounds the same.
Okay.
It's a fixed pump. Yeah, you're right, Pete. You need one that slows down, because you don't need to go full bore all the time.
No.
Not for 8 hours a day.
Or you just need to do a shorter filter cycle. But most people have chlorinators, and because they're usually small, or there's not enough cyanuric acid in your water, it just chews the chlorine so quickly. So what you need to do is buy a big chlorinator that has a lot of capacity, put the correct amount of cyanuric acid in, so that it's like a sunscreen for the chlorine. And that way you might be able to reduce your pool filter cycles to maybe like 4 hours, and that would halve your electricity consumption for the pool.
Okay.
But
yeah, it's
hard
got
to do.
yeah, it is a little waterfall and little
oh, nice.
children's pond and the whole thing.
Oh, so the pool water goes like in a waterfall,
and then it recycles and goes back.
Right. Well, you're aerating it, so that's probably making the chlorine disappear even faster. I don't know the chemistry of that.
It goes fast. I know it's fast. Yeah. And I have a pool, a salt system, but from time to time I do add salt. Oh,
you have to. Yes, that's right. You do consume salt. Usually you lose salt in winter when the pool overflows, and you always lose a bit of salt.
I've got an automatic witch as well.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
As many auto things as I can have, I do.
There's no reason for a human to lift a finger if a machine can do it itself.
Exactly.
I see Richard going, no, I need a manual gearbox. I need a manual clutch.
No, I'm all electric now, mate. I'm giving all that stuff.
As Elon says, the best invention is what was it? The worst thing
part is no part.
Perfect the part that's not required.
Yeah, the best part is no part.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
He gives 2 points for deleting a line of code and only 1 point for adding a line of code.
Yeah. Well, I don't like gas, so I don't even have gas in the house. Everything's electric.
So you have an electric induction cooktop?
Everything. Yeah.
That's awesome.
They're great. They are so great.
That is the best thing since sliced bread and
including a teppanyaki plate as well.
Oh, is that induction? Oh no, that would just be an element. So you got teppanyaki. Yeah, nice. Fantastic. Cool. So the Tokwa Christmas party will be at Carmen's place.
Yes, I like entertaining.
and Carmen just said yes, and we're recording this live to YouTube, so we better reference that.
Awesome. That's as good as a digital handshake, that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there's 60 people logging on tonight, or
that
recording.
That is as good as DocuSign. That is absolutely as good as DocuSign.
No problem. No problem.
She just confirmed it too, so she's initialed it as well.
I have got good news.
Oh yes, do tell.
I have good news. We're recording, so I'll say it nicely.
We can pause if you want to.
Pause.
Oh, hang on. Let me pause. I will be back in 2 seconds, and you won't even notice. And we're back.
Yes,
we never left really, so it was all the same. I don't know what we're talking about. There was just one of those things.
Yes.
That's awesome, Carmen. Fantastic. So anyone else got any other bits of news or whatever that we've thought about in the last couple of minutes?
Is anybody going up to Hallidon Primary School for the Sustainable Living Fete on Saturday?
Robbie didn't hear that. There was a sustainable... Sorry, say that again, Nigel.
Sustainable Living Fete at Hallidon Primary on Saturday.
I signed up for that last year, but then it got cancelled because of COVID.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise it was on again.
Yeah, well, he emailed out to everybody again, and yeah, I
Oh.
put my name down. So I'm going up there with me Model 3 on display for them.
Awesome. With your bedside manner, you can rev the kids up and they'll shout like it or not.
You just can't rev the car up, unfortunately.
No, I'll have to put the speakers on loud.
Can you do a few burnouts on the oval? Will that sort of just a bit of lawn cutting, cut the
You
lawn?
could just,
Yeah,
you can
maybe.
sit on the oval and fart all around the oval. They'd love that. Kids would like that.
Oh, the kids love fart mode. They do love fart mode.
Oh, the adults do too.
Can you go to Osborne Park and get them to fit the external speaker so you can project the fart mode externally?
I don't know that they got a speaker to put in them now. I don't know. It's
Apparently,
an accessory.
apparently all the cars that were built, I think it was after about November or December of 2019, have all the connections. They just don't have the physical speaker.
Well,
So
that's
it
a
wouldn't
bummer
be that-
because my car arrived in the country
Yeah, me
for me
too.
to collect at the beginning of December 19. So it was made back before that.
Mine was a July built as well. So
That was with the soft paint that they didn't
Yes.
realize needed 1 minute more to cure.
yeah, exactly.
Dry.
Yeah, and I'm paying the price for it every single day.
Speaking of new cars, the gentleman, and I apologize for getting his name again, he's getting a Model 3 next month. And the exciting thing was, he goes, oh, he's been allocated a VIN. So of course, the next thing I asked him was, well, show us your VIN. And he did, and it was LRW, which is, well, I think it's LRW, which is Shanghai.
Shanghai.
So it's an absolute Perth confirmed order that's coming from Shanghai, Model 3.
So
Yeah,
does that
they-
mean it's got LFP batteries?
No, he's got a long range. So I believe that's the NCA, the Tesla standard battery pack. So
when
go on,
when
Nigel.
I was at Osborne Park last week, or
Yeah, it was last week. Yep.
Yeah, last week. They did confirm that the cars they're getting are coming from China. And they did say something about the structural batteries will be coming at the end of the year, but I don't know if they were bullshitting me or not.
That's a technical term, thanks to the YouTube algorithm. Actually, speaking of the YouTube algorithm, you know how last week we had, I did that snippet of the ABC Fight for Planet A doing the drag race thing? Well, the buggers, and that's also another technical term, they demonetized that video. Not that it was monetized in the first place, to be brutally honest, because we don't have 1,000 subscribers yet. If you're watching this 3 years in the future, we probably have 10,000, so it's all right, don't worry. By then, they demonetized it because I was using copyrighted content. And they said it wasn't a copyright strike, it was just like a, well, we're just not going to monetize it. And the algorithm correctly said that this was ABC TV Australia's content, and it was on the on our video. So
Big Brother is watching.
well, yeah, they absolutely watch every single thing. So
Wow.
so every word that we say, they are listening to, and every picture we put up, they're watching.
So here's a question for you back to LFP batteries in China. Because you can happily charge them to 100%, discharge them to 0%. How much is the range kill, or is there any range hit at all compared with 80 and 20 like we all try to do now?
Yeah,
So,
I think an SR Plus will get more day-to-day usable range than the older ones, because you can always go to 100.
Yeah.
Whereas, so practically, I think it's an enhancement, and because we don't have harsh winters, you don't have to worry about any of the temperature issues that they have, bearing in mind that the Model 3s now have the heat pump. And I don't know if you guys have seen Bjorn Nyland's videos. But one issue they have in ultra cold climates is the Model 3, to get better driving efficiency, will relentlessly suck the heat out of the battery pack and put it into the cabin because it's basically like almost like a free source of heat. But it does that at the expense of the performance of the battery pack and even the power that the car can produce. So I think he was running the batteries down to sort of 5%. No, it wasn't even 5%. It was, no, he was doing 0 to 100 kilometer runs per hour, kilometer runs, and getting worse and worse performance as the heat was being pulled out of the pack and as the pack was getting lower and lower in charge rate. So yeah, in Australia, I think the SR Plus will be quite a good offering. And it's cheaper too, I think, or it's, no, maybe it's not. Sorry, it might be the same price. Cheaper than what you got, Carmen, unfortunately. But yeah, $73,500, something like that. 73.8.
Yes, I wrote to Melbourne and Sydney, which is the head office actually. I think I wrote to Sydney.
I think it's Sydney. I think it's St. Leonard's. Was
yes, I think
Herbert
that's
Street.
where I wrote. And a junior basic sales type person gave me a bit of BS, and I said, look, could you get someone in management to actually talk to me seriously? I don't want to have dismissed or a generic answer. And I haven't heard since.
Yes.
Not surprising.
It's an issue. Yeah. Unfortunately, Tesla are famous for reducing prices, which on the one hand, well, except with the new Model S's and X's, of course, but that's another story, completely different story. But historically, Tesla have been infamous for reducing prices. And one of the biggest instances of that was the Model S and X performance versions in about 2017, when they used to cost, a Model X used to be $300,000 for the performance.
That's a lot of money.
Yes, and now you can buy one for 200. And in fact, you could 2 years ago buy one for 200 roughly. So they took $100,000 off the brand new price, like a third off the brand new price, which of course smashed the secondhand car market. For if you paid, imagine if you paid 300 for something brand new, you want to sell it secondhand after doing 50,000 Ks, and now the brand new thing is only 200. Well, you're not even looking at 120 or something. You know, you're looking at much less than half the cost.
Yes, yeah.
Or half the price. But I guess on the other hand, for everyone else who's bought after you and many others, it's great for them. And I guess it's much, but you know, as a company, you prefer them to sell things cheaper and cheaper and cheaper because then there's more access. But it's always annoying when you find out if you buy a brand new, you know, 60-inch plasma telly or what LCD telly, and then you find out the next day it's on special. You know, I guess
it's not the end of the world, but I think they should have a better policy, at least a little bit of time in between, like 3 months or so.
Yeah.
But still, it's not the end of the world. We'll try get it somewhere, some other way.
Well, look, you did get a free charger, which they do have to pay for now. So, I mean, that's only $780.
700.
Yeah.
I'll check that.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Indeed.
Yes.
But you know, that's classic Tesla, and they were criticized again in China because there was an interview with the head of Tesla in China, which was another interesting thing about the Gigafactory in Shanghai. And he did. One question was around that, you know, a lot of owners were annoyed that there were significant price decreases. And he did explain that some of those were actually Tesla reducing their gross profit, their margin on the vehicles, so they could get the price below a threshold where the government would provide subsidies. And that meant that many more people could buy the cars. Oh, and also that previously the higher price version was for cars coming from Fremont, whereas now they're being built in Shanghai.
Yes.
Because the import duty was a lot greater than, well, there's an import duty as opposed to no duty.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's going to affect us in Australia with the Shanghai built cars, because we have a free trade agreement with both countries.
Yeah. Well, our government is not really looking after us with incentives compared to China. They're getting quite a bit.
Oh yes, and that's actually a good news item too. In the States, the Biden administration, I think it's been announced. I don't know if it's been put into law yet, but it's announced.
No, it hasn't yet. It's just been the legislation's been introduced, but hasn't been. Hasn't gone through yet.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Pete. Yeah. So, but what they've announced is that Tesla will get another 400,000 cars. They'll get $7,000 US dollar tax credit, which is a federal tax credit, which obviously you can only use if you have a federal tax bill, which is an income tax. I think that's income tax, isn't it? Or something like that.
So only if you're paying income tax will you get the 7,000. If you're a retiree and you buy one and you don't pay any income tax, tough.
Well, that's right, and that's sad for those capo retirees that can afford a Tesla. but you know, it's cool. Yeah, that's right. But it's going to be a big a boost for Tesla, because they'll get to. And it's not just 400,000 cars, because once they reach another 400,000 cars, they then get one more quarter at 3.5% discount, regardless of numbers. So what they were saying is that Tesla they'll just sell cars normally up until they sell another 400,000 Teslas in North America. Sorry, in the US. And then they will game the system. Well, they won't game it. They will maximize the return for US purchasers, which probably means whenever that quarter is, there will be no supply for the rest of the world, because they will try and, Fremont will produce as many cars for the local market as they can possibly do to get that discount to the half discount to as many owners in the States as they can.
And they may even start shipping some cars from Shanghai. I don't know if it'd be worth it or not, but I was thinking, because I was thinking, you know, the 400,000, they'll go through that easily in the first half of the year. So by maybe April, May, they would, you know. But then, so it's 400,000 once it's enacted. Yes,
it's US. So, and don't forget, it's only US sales, and there are a lot of cars sold elsewhere.
True. Okay. Yeah.
So maybe a year.
Yeah. So okay. Yep.
Yeah, maybe a year, but then in that quarter, when there's basically free reign, and you've only got one quarter left, and you know when that is, they will put as many cars into the US as they can.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, there won't be any cars exported out of the US during that quarter, that's for sure.
Exactly. But thankfully for aspiring Model 3 owners, they'll all be coming from Shanghai anyway for us. Unless, of course, like you say, Pete, they might redirect some of those Shanghai ones back to the States, which would be quite ironic. But in a good way, like, you know, that's a good thing.
But yeah, hopefully by that time, Texas will be online. So, you know, all those Model Ys and Cybertrucks.
Yes.
I just want a Model Y.
I heard today that somebody paid $1 million for an Australian Falcon. What was that all about?
Yeah, go on, Rob. You know this. I'm sure you do.
Phase 3 GTHO.
Oh, Richard, that's it. You got there.
Why? Why did you get that money?
It's like the Mona Lisa of cars.
Oh, okay.
It's not a very good painting, but it's not a very good car, but people love them. So
it's an old bomb. It's dead.
So is there only one?
No.
Okay.
How many were there, do you reckon, Richard? Would they
500 of them.
500, Rob?
They had to buy. They had back in the day to race at Bathurst. They had to build at least 500 cars. So the GDHO Phase 3 was $4,800 drive away. That's how much it cost to put the engine and gearbox in it. But they just needed to sell them. So
what's that? What's that in
so they
today's
were
money?
very good cars.
Well,
Sorry?
What's that in today's money? That would be a year's pay? No, less.
It's probably $35,000, $40,000.
That would be
Or more than that. Wouldn't it be 50-ish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A 1973 Holden station wagon was $3,000. My dad bought one. But the actual car was a very, very good car. Well built car. And because a lot of them got smashed up in the early 70s, there's only probably another 150 around. Now that guy that sold it in Perth, he owes $240 million to his creditors. So
oh, really?
He's in a huge amount of trouble. So he had 8 muscle cars he sold yesterday.
Wow.
A Monaro, XU1 Tirana, the whole lot. So I think $1.15 million was a bargain.
Really?
It's only going to go up, yeah.
They wouldn't drive so well. Somebody rang in. I was driving when I heard it, and somebody rang in and they said that the brakes were terrible.
Oh, yeah.
A whole lot of stuff didn't work as well as nowadays.
And it was the fastest.
Driving.
It was the fastest 4-door sedan in the world at the time. And I just looked at its standing quarter mile time. We did 11.4. This does standing quarter mile in 14.4. And
it was the fastest car because of its top speed. It did 144 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, ours do 160.
Yeah. So
and
they don't handle good, but they sound good.
Oh yeah, awesome. But yeah, piece of rubbish really, but awesome.
So it's a classic. I think Hammond, what's his name? Hammond.
Richard Hammond.
Richard Hammond from Top Gear. He drove, was it a Cobra? One of the American muscle cars. And Mustang.
Yeah.
And he said it's a little bit like meeting a famous movie star or something. You'll always be disappointed because it will never be what you thought it was.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened to him in that car. It was just...
Don't ever drive your dream car because you'll be disappointed. Yeah.
Or if you want to buy your dream car, just go and borrow it from someone and drive it for 10 minutes and go, oh, no, I don't need to do that anymore. It's just, yeah.
Or just polish it.
Yes, just...
Leave it in the garage and polish it.
Oh, sorry, I thought, yeah, that's all right. I was thinking of something else, but anyway, it's all good.
We're still recording.
Show.
We're still recording, Harold. So I don't know what you're thinking.
And the algorithm is still listening because it listens to everything that everyone says. And just like Elon Musk does, and shout out to Elon and to Damon. Yes. And Damon, I did hear last week that you hadn't watched our show straight away, but I hope you weren't offended by the watermelon red color that your car is. That we all agreed was. It's not burnt orange, it's watermelon red.
See, but Harold, it depends. See, you're looking at it in the shade, and it looks very different in the sun. So, yeah.
Yeah, but that just begs to rub it in there, Pete. And I'm just going to have to go to PlugShare and drag out that photo, just so we can analyze it one more time. Oh no, it's all good. But
it looked like the red that's in your background on the Tokwa
that
logo.
Red. Yeah. Yeah, I sort of beg to differ. I'm going to prove it in about 3 seconds. When
so that looks very different to the red on the Roadster, because see, that's in the shadow.
Actually, Pete, you know what? You're dead right.
No, that is the one coming up on the screen is actually a little bit more orange than in real life, because when you send that printout, that's a true red. This is an orange red. It's the light on the screen.
Ah, right. Yes. Yeah. See, I can see there, you're right, Pete. It does look similar to the Tokwa logo, red. At least the boot part, this part does. But in other light, it looks burnt orange. I'm just saying, putting that out loud, like.
And and also that color, so Damon has said it looks quite different when it's had a bit of dust settle on it. So
right.
yeah, it looks it doesn't look anywhere near as shiny. It looks
so is it like an orange that's got a dusting of cinnamon on it, perhaps? Is it like a cinnamon orange?
You got to get away from these food and fruit bloody comparisons.
Yeah, we're into the veggies. We're not into the. Well, it's not like a Wagyu beef red color, is it? It's.
But that car looks absolutely sensational in real life. I don't care what you say, but in real life, it looks absolutely sensational.
It does too. No, it does, and it's got a great number plate. Very clever.
Yeah.
And yes, it is a great car. And yeah. And once again, shout out for Damon. This is probably your third half hour that you're watching Slice. So thanks for doing so.
I think it's a very nice coral.
Oh, dearie me. So has anyone else got anything interesting to say or comment or allege, color-wise or car-wise?
I'll have a look. I will have.
I just got. I went to charge my car in Forestdale, and I drove up Tesla Road or Tesla Way, or whatever it was.
Yes, at the McDonald's near.
Yeah.
Yep.
And eventually worked out how to use it, and had some chips, and got just enough range to get home. So not in your style, Harold. We sort of still had 20 kilometers left or something. So.
Yes, well, I've learned all my style from Carmen because she's the expert. She's done more in her first week than I've done in my first year. But I see that Richard's now. Ooh, I see some items.
Three of them have arrived. I'm still waiting for the fourth one.
Oh, right. Is that on a diesel truck? Is it?
Yeah, these are the original, I think, 2012 or 2013 Tesla Aero wheels that were sold in the States. So yeah,
very nice.
19-inch. So I just want them. I want them for road trips for maximum aerodynamic efficiency, and given that mine are 21-inch grey turbines, not very efficient, but yeah. So going to 19s and yeah, Aero wheels. So that's my little bit of news.
Have they got some curb rash on them already?
Oh yeah, of course. Well, I wouldn't want them if they didn't.
So that means your car will look almost as ugly awesome as this one.
Yeah. Although I am going to get them, paint them up as in the same colour as my grey turbine.
Yeah,
so
nice.
Hopefully.
So you just have to paint your nose on and it'll look really good.
Basically, that exactly.
I'm going to try my best to find. Oh, there. No, that's.
Are they from different places?
No, well, it's all one seller, but they're different colour. This one's like a light grey, and these are a dark grey. But yeah, and I need to find or 3D print the Aero caps. The last wheel that's going to be arriving, he says he's got one, so I'll see if I can take a copy and a scan. And Seb's got a really good 3D printer, I think, still. So
cool.
Hi, Seb.
If that doesn't work, just bit of black gaffer tapes will work great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that'll do fine in the meantime.
So your car will look like this, Richard.
Yeah, similar, darker, because I'll paint all of it up. But yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, how excitingly sexy that.
The same as mine.
You know, there's no accounting for taste, is there? It's
I
yeah.
don't care. I just want range and efficiency.
Nice.
Yeah. So
that's pretty cool.
That's my little project at the moment.
And there's no rim rash.
Oh, very, very little.
Not much on the inside.
I'm planning on doing it all myself. Does anyone reckon whether it's worth taking it to a professional place and getting them properly?
No, they look crap. Just keep them that way.
Yeah. You know what? I shouldn't even bother painting them, really, should I? There we go. Just roll
You
with
should
that.
just slam them on, mate, because when you're driving, no one sees it. It's just a blur of grey.
Have you got a dymo label, mate? Have you got one of those label, mates? All you need to do is on each wheel, just put on the silver bit, just print out "I'm proud." Piss off.
How I'm proud, maybe.
So, Richard, how more efficient are those rims compared to the ones that you've currently got? What extra range are you going to get?
Well, you won't be racing anyone with them.
Well, part of it is the fact that they're 19-inch anyway, so I'll get probably about another 10% from that. But I was chatting to someone who put up a video on YouTube 5 or 6 years ago and he did a whole thing about the range, extra range that he got. Anyway, so I emailed him, and yeah, he was really helpful and said, yeah, there's still, from what he's been able to see with testing wheels over the years, is that these are still the most efficient wheels that you can get for the Model S. And you can also select them from the there's a drop down to select in the car what wheels you have, and you can actually select these from the drop down, which is how I found them in the first place. But they existed, and I thought, oh, I wonder if I can order them from Tesla, and no. But then that's where the journey started. So I don't know, to be honest, and that's something I'm going to be finding out. But yeah, I mean, they're pretty much. I wanted to go with these though, rather than just sort of any aerodynamic wheel that I found, because of like the load rating of the car, and they are actually designed to go on for Tesla. So yeah, once I get the sort out something for the caps, yeah, I should be able to. I should know.
So when you select those wheels, the car will probably render your car with those wheels on it.
I know it will. I thought that.
That's pretty cool.
Are you going to put TPMS sensors in them?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, which I think Rob already sent me a link for TPMS sensors on eBay, so that should be easy enough. So there we go. So I wasn't even going to mention it yet until I had all four and was a bit further on, but seeing as we're all looking for a bit of news.
3 out. Oh, focus. 3 out of 4s. 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4. I could just run them like that,
They'll make a lot of noise if you don't put rubber on them. They'll get really noisy.
Yeah, wouldn't be the first time I've done that.
So are they the same rim size? So can you put your old tyres on, or do you have to?
No, these are 19s and mine are 21s, which is part of the reason. I thought if I'm going to go 19s, I want the most efficient ones anyway. So
yeah. And they're heritage. I mean, you've got the originals. Yeah.
Probably off 4 different cars.
Have you got enough log data to know how much better they'd be if you do a trip? Be interesting to know.
Yeah. I mean, the car, I think I bought it with 40-something thousand and up to about 100 and something. 100. So yeah, we've probably done about 60,000 Ks on it now. So I pretty much know that in reasonable conditions, I get about 200 watt-hours per kilometre.
At what speed?
110.
Right.
So yeah. So if I haven't got a good, a strong headwind, I generally get 200. 200 is what we just come back from Boston today, and going down there we pretty much got bang on 200. Coming back, I think we were into a bit of a wind, so we're getting about 220. So
wow, that's not that fantastic, Richard.
No, that's because I've got nice big 21-inch turbines.
Sticky turbines. Yeah.
Have you seen the coefficient of the drag coefficient of the Plaid Model S?
Yeah,
0.208, I think.
was it?
0.208, I think.
Yeah,
It's
right.
the best in the world.
That's
So it's-
incredible, really.
It's less than the
Really.
Lucid now because the Lucid beat the Model S.
Haha, it did, didn't it? Do you know? I did notice as well that they've changed the front, so you don't get these louvers now that open up, because there's other radiators behind there.
Yep.
And these, because I actually had some of these jammed open once, and I had to get Tesla to unjam it. So yeah, so I think I noticed on the new design that they don't have those anymore. So they've obviously come up with a better way of making that constantly aerodynamic.
And they've got a more aggressive splitter too.
Yeah, true.
It comes out a bit further, so it's interesting.
So, but yeah, that's
My
that's
Lotus
impressive.
was 0.42.
Even the semi's got
Really
3.6.
Oh, it's like a brick. Yeah, the Lotus looks very aerodynamic. Lotus Elise.
Yeah, right.
It's just not.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Does anyone know what it is for the Cybertruck?
0.36 or something, isn't it?
I don't think that was mentioned, was it?
Yeah, they did, because the Chiron was 0.38, and I said I think the Cybertruck was 0.36, but don't quote me on it.
No, that was the semi.
I mean the semi.
Yeah, no. Pete was asking about
the Cybertruck.
Cybertruck.
Sorry, don't know.
Because that's the only truck we'll be buying. I mean, we could all just go and buy a semi, you know.
Yeah, motorhome.
And you could spend 3 weeks charging it every day.
Yeah, well, you just go
3
to
weeks
Perth,
charging it.
you just go to the Perth supercharger and
I knew
just
what I was saying.
plug all the nozzles in.
You sure could.
I don't think the Cybertruck was quoted as a
It was. Didn't Musk say it in his speech, or am I misremembering that?
Go on, Harold, look it up. You've got a computer.
I was there and I can't remember it, but I had a couple of free beers and stuff.
Were you at the unveil?
Yeah.
Was that unreal?
Yeah, it was. The best thing I've got, I'm not sure if I'll just see if it's on YouTube. I can't remember if I put it on there. Was the slow-mo of the sledgehammer hitting the door? Because I filmed it at 240 frames per second, and it came out. Oh, it was awesome. But I'm just not sure if I've got it on YouTube. Otherwise, I've got it on Twitter because I did tweet it out.
What's this?
Yeah, that's it. Oh,
Oh,
yes. Oh, here we go. I have got it too. Look at that. So I'm going to play it. And then the irony is that because this is a Tokwa channel, I'll probably get a copyright infringement saying that I've copyrighted myself. I'll just play it. How do we play it properly? View in YouTube. Okay, and I'll put up on the screen. This was the best footage I got. Oh, back here, 2 seconds, 3, 2, 1, here we go. So this is France, and I'll just hit play. Oof. Oh, it's a little bit jittery. Oh, cancel, we'll just refresh that. As he hits it. But of course, the problem was that he then goes on to
break the window,
throw the ball bearing. And for some reason, I didn't record that at 240 frames per second, which I really, really regret because that would have been awesome. But yeah, I was there. I flew out there, and I was the only Aussie basically there representing Tokwa. And yeah, it was amazing. But
what did you think when it drove out? And the look of it, you must have fallen over backwards.
I've got to quote my wife, Rochelle, because she was watching the live stream, right? Because it was lunchtime or something like that in Australia. And I'm going to try and find it. I can paraphrase. She basically said something like, "Oh my God, is that it?" Like, you know, that's just ludicrous or something, or insulting. And then lower down in a subsequent text, she goes, "And no, you're not going to get one." And I I must admit, when I first saw it, I thought, that must be like the joke one, and there's going to be another one, like a standard one. And then when I realized that it wasn't a joke, I'm like, oh no, that's really bad. Like it just looks ridiculous. And everyone's done this, or almost everyone. You go through those stages. So, and then the problem was because the window broke, or both windows broke, it sucked the oxygen out of the whole room. And you can see it rattled Elon Musk, like he was fully rattled. And through the rest of the presentation, he was so distracted. And I reckon he would have just loved to have just walked off and gone, oh, let's just do this another day. Like, let's just not bother with the rest of it. And he sort of like rambled through the rest of it. He didn't really care. Anyway, we got on stage and they had it wasn't in clay, but it was like, it wasn't the metal version. It was a grey painted version that you couldn't see through the windows. So I had a fair bit of time to actually look at it up close, and it started growing on me. And then, by the next day I thought, oh yeah, I want one of these because it's so crazy, but it's also cool. It's like a pug, like a pug dog is but ugly, but it's kind of cute. So it's this brutal,
I had a kind of a thought of this, yes, because we've just spent a couple of days down in Buston, and my goodness, they love a four-wheel drive down there. I must have said every other vehicle must have been a four-wheel drive, and I was just thinking, do you know what? I would just love to come down here in a Cybertruck
and just park it,
all of you up.
They would all lose their minds. They would literally all lose their minds.
They'd be like, I can show you a truck.
And you tell them what it costs, and they'll just go, no, that's not possible.
Yeah. When they said, what was it? Was it 30, 35?
30 grand, it was
39.9.
39, yes.
50 and 70.
Yep. And I predicted back more than a year ago that the Cybertruck would cost in WA, with our high stamp duty and luxury car tax. Well, there is no luxury car tax. That's the first point. So there is zero LCT on all three versions, and there's only stamp duty. And the dearest version, the tri-motor, was it Plaid? No, we didn't call it Plaid. It was just the tri-motor version with 800 kilometers of range. Top price delivered to WA is $135,000.
Joking.
Yeah.
Not for something that can tow. Well, in America they say 14,000 pounds, but in Australia it's actually 3.5 tons, because if you go more than 3.5 tons, you've got to provide pneumatic hose braking. Like it's got to be like a semi-trailer, like a
electric. Yeah.
It can't be electric. It's got to be pneumatic. So if airlines, which
but the Cybertruck's got an air compressor.
It does.
Yeah. Oh, it can do it. Sure.
Yes, so it could do it. Yes.
And so you buy it for 140 grand, and then another 150 grand to make your garage big enough for it.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Well, you could accommodate it if you build.
But it's a Cybertruck. You leave it in the weather. Who needs a garage?
On that note, I'm just going to pause this for 2 seconds.
You don't need a garage.
To buy a new house, you've got to basically demolish the garage and then extend it. But sorry, Nigel.
Well,
Elon did say you don't need to garage it.
Well, there's no paint.
And I've always said that the Cybertruck is so tough that no rain would dare fall on it. Like it would just divert.
And they'll fix the software so the overheat protection works.
But how are you going to charge it? That's the problem. And here is where my bet with Pete comes in, because if it is fully autonomous and you can just send it off to go and charge itself somewhere and then say, right, come on, let's go camping, or off you go and earn me some money to pay for you, that could change the game completely.
What was the time frame for that, Richard?
I can't remember. I thought you were checking.
Nuclear fusion. It's on the same time frame as nuclear fusion.
No, I think we were a bit more definite than that.
What's that time frame for the Cybertruck?
No, for full self-driving being
allowed
in Western Australia or Australia in general.
Yeah. When's fusion power? That was always 50 years, wasn't it?
No, it's 20 years.
20 years.
Always 20 years. Yeah.
So with
Bit
all
like
these great
hydrogen.
minds here, is there any advice for what I can do with a mechanic's pit in my garage?
Ooh.
Yeah, just keep it. Just put some boards over it and keep it.
Have you got a mechanic's pit in your garage?
I do. It's covered. I was married to a mechanical engineer who all he did was change the oil because nowadays you don't need them. So
you mean husbands who are mechanics?
Sorry.
Mechanical engineers.
No, he was a mechanical engineer.
You could put a spa pump into it and fill it with water.
But not only that, I air conditioned the garage so that he could work in comfort.
That's awesome.
Wow. That's a wonderful thing to do there, Carmen.
Maybe rent it out.
Yeah, I think the miniature lap pool was a pretty good idea of Richard's there.
We'll have a look at it when we come for the Christmas party.
Okay.
Yes.
I could use it to test my new dive gear out.
You can never have too much storage, Carmen.
Oh, look, it's a real
what about wine
nuisance
cellar?
because we have
Carmen, what about
wine cellar?
Yeah.
No, it gets it
Very
gets a bit
small one.
smelly actually because it has some special.
Didn't you bury him properly?
It has some it's got lids on it that have been made specially. I'll take a photo. It does look like a grave. And the lids come off in 4 pieces with handles, but it gets a little bit musty because it's all underground, obviously.
But if you got it sealed, like you seal it, we're getting our bathroom renovated. If you get the walls sealed, so it's waterproof.
It is waterproof.
Well, it'd be good cellar, I reckon.
It's hot. It's boiling hot.
But it's air conditioned in there.
Well, exactly. I need more than a smart meter for that.
Well, you need more solar panels. See, Pete's there, and he can put more panels on your roof. Get a Tesla solar roof and have it all panels.
What you could do is you could put a blow up mattress down there, and you could drive your Tesla over at night and just look up at your batteries. Awesome.
Well, you wouldn't get to see the batteries because there's a liner that covers. It's a very boring sight. There's nothing.
Don't get so technical, will you, Pete?
It's completely flat under there.
It is, yeah.
Actually, I know that because I shouldn't say this really to you guys, but I asked Harry to send me a photo of the undercarriage of the car before I got it. And he said, why? And I said, because in the previous car I bought, it was dented when it came off a truck. So the exhaust was bent. And he said, the exhaust. So, so he said, all right, I'll send you a photo. So he sent me a photo of the underneath.
Really? That's pretty good.
He did.
And of course, you should check that photo was legit because you can put the car over the pit. So there's a car. So the pit is longer than the car then, or do you only put the front part or the back part over the pit to see? Because there's obviously stairs going down one end of the pit.
Well, we've got a ladder.
Okay,
we didn't have stairs,
Yep.
but it's the length of the car. I'll take a photo so that the car can go over it with the wheels either side.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a damn nuisance because there is a seal and then an aluminium set of covers.
Yep.
But whenever you're doing anything like vacuuming with a lid, an electrical lid, it all gets caught. And he wanted it raised above the garage door so he could hose the garage. But now everything gets caught around that little rim.
So have you got a double garage or a single garage?
Double.
Ooh, so it'd be dangerous if you had the lids off and then you decided to
Yes.
park in the center of the double garage because you'd like straddle the you'd straddle the pit.
No, you have to park beside it. It's exact fit. And but if there's kids around, you can't lift the lids because you can fall in.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's just a nuisance.
Best thing to do is fill it full of sand, compact it, and concrete it back over.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what
actually, I am actually tempted to do that.
Yeah.
Because who is going to use it with all the electrical equipment now needed for any car, let alone mine?
Yeah, true.
So, Carmen,
For
did you
safety
say
reasons, just fill it in.
has it got a rail that sits above the garage floor and it lifted a bit, so you have to cut that off? Did you say to keep stuff out
Oh
of it?
no, I don't think so. It's just a little bit of aluminium, you know, like when you tile. It's just a 10 mil stand all around it, and then the lids fit into that with a rubber molding. I'll take a photo.
It is a bit proud of the floor, is it?
Yes, it is.
So
yeah.
So you can gently hose so that it won't run into the pit.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that'll need cutting off so you can get it flat.
That shouldn't be too big.
Okay, guys, I've got to go, so I'll see you.
All right, Nigel, take care. Good to see
Good
you.
night.
See you next week.
See you next week.
See you, Nigel.
Harold, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
You've got to listen
Rob.
carefully to this question. This is year 11 homework. If chlorine has an extra electron, will it be bigger than a normal chlorine electron? Atom.
What?
Well, it's normally Cl minus, which is the ion. If it has an extra electron,
then it's pure chlorine. Then it's not an ion.
No, it's not an ion, but bigger means electrostatically bigger. But depends what the question means about being bigger. Because atoms, the actual protons and neutrons are a tiny, tiny fraction of the apparent size of the atom, because the nucleus is tiny, but it's the electrons that give it its sort of apparent size, because they're the electrical field that interact with everything else. So
why the question?
Charge, extra electron, it would be one charge. I thought it was only one minus. It's only Cl minus.
It's a cloud of orbitals and
but as you have electron shells, and you have the first shell, and they go out and out. Like potassium only has one electron in the outer shell, so it's very reactive because that electron loves to go away and join another one, or to be donated to something else like oxygen or whatever.
Okay, I reckon he's misread this question. Let me read it again. Would a chloride ion be bigger or smaller than the chlorine atom?
Ah, that's different. It's chloride ion.
So that's Cl minus.
Would be smaller. Maybe potentially.
No, Cl minus means it has to have an extra electron.
Oh, yeah.
So that question again, just one more time, Rob.
Okay, would a chloride ion be bigger or smaller than the chlorine atom?
No, and yes, the ion is bigger because it has an extra electron, because it's minus, Cl minus. It's gained an electron.
So the ion is bigger because it's got an extra electron.
Yes.
We'll see how good. We'll get back to you next week. This is year 11 homework.
This is to do with atomic radius, not the like weight and stuff.
Did you hear that?
Yes, no, the radius, yes, because it has the extra electron, which means that electron probably is in another shell, because chlorine is very reactive, which means that, I forget, you have the S and the D and the whatever shells. Because it's negative and it's very reactive, means there's only one electron in that shell, as opposed to perhaps two or whatever's natural, or more stable. So I'd say it would be bigger. Yes, its radius would be bigger, I think.
Okay, I'll send him off and see how it goes.
I didn't do. Is that year 11? I didn't do year 11 chemistry since 1984 or 5. Was the last time I did year 11 chemistry.
Is it
1985.
It's chemistry. Yeah.
Yeah, my UWA student number started with 87.
I was 74.
We'll see the answer next week.
Oh, I see a pussy in the room.
Oh, settle.
It's right there.
Oh, it's sleeping. Goes away. Cute. Very cute.
Cool. So we can do homework. We can do anything. Yeah. Actually, it's funny. Richard and I had a little quick debrief last week because it was a good session, and we sort of like we're talking about how much we enjoyed it. And I said, oh, we should do a talk around the clock, which is like a marathon, 24-hour.
Oh, really?
Which, Damon, if you're still watching on your 4th half-hour slice, that would take 48 half-hour slices to watch. That's dedication.
So that was year 11 maths.
And
Yes,
that would
probably
be,
was.
17,532.
I can't believe you did that.
In a year. 17,520.
Okay, I've got one for you. This is interesting. If you had a rope, right, that wrapped right around the earth, start to finish, right, and then you wanted to make the rope stand 1 meter off the surface, how many kilometers more? How much longer would that rope have to be?
Surely that would be dozens and dozens and dozens of kilometers
have to be a lot,
longer,
wouldn't it?
because the whole round part of the world.
A meter higher. How much longer would it have to be? Anyone?
Give me a couple minutes to work it out.
I know you figured it out.
It
Harold?
would be 6 meters.
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah, 2 pi r.
Pi d. Yeah.
No, 2 pi r. It's radius.
Yeah.
So
it's pi d.
diameter is 2 meters.
Pi d
1 meter
and 2
up.
pi r is the same.
2 pi r. So it's 6 meters. So you go 1 meter up, go all the way around. It'll be 6 meters longer. Yeah. So the circumference is 2 pi r.
Yeah, or pi d, same thing.
No, it's not, because r is not d.
R is half a d.
That's right.
Yeah, so pi d is the same.
Radius is increased by by a meter.
Oh,
so
yeah, right.
So the radius of the Earth is 6,400 kilometers.
So it's 6 point something meters. Yeah, it's not much, isn't it?
It's not, and you think it's that's
have to be miles.
One thing that spun me out is I was actually reminiscing last night, looking at aerial photos from the Freeport Bow River diamond mine, which is no longer there. It's near Argyle, which is also no longer there because I've just shut it recently. And we were laying this polythene 200 millimeter. No, it wasn't longer than that. It was bigger than that. Water pipeline to go from the Bow River to the processing plant to process these diamonds. And when you looked at it, they put it in the trench and it was all like wiggly. So it had, there was extra length. And when they actually cut out all this wiggle that went for about 4 or 5 kilometers, all they cut out was about 1.5 meters. Like
astonishing.
With all the wiggle, you think, oh, there must be tons of extra pipe, and it was like 1.5 meter section. That was it. And they pulled it tight with a bulldozer, and like got it all tight. And the only part they cut out was 1.5 meters. It was just one of those weird things. But anyway.
Well, that shut everyone up. I should go now.
62 meters doesn't sound right, does it?
It doesn't, but it is right.
That's right.
62 meters is correct.
Yep.
Yeah, if you went 1 meter up all the way around the world, it's 2 pi r. So it's basically roughly 6 times that meter. That's all.
6.28.
Yeah. Through all, and if it was the sun, if it was around the sun,
it would be the same.
And you went 1 meter, and you think, oh, there's a 1,000,000 kilometre, whatever. It's like, no, it's 6 meters.
Yeah, it's nuts.
If you went around the universe.
Oh, now you're getting it.
And went up
Which is how big?
1 meter. And don't start with those infinite, you know, the infinite hotel. That an infinite hotel that is fully booked always has a vacancy, because all I need to do is ask the person in room 1 to go to room 2, and the person in room 2 to go to room 3, and vice versa.
You're sick.
So on. And then you can find a vacancy, because then you can always admit the person into room 1, just by making everyone move to the room along the next number.
You could do with
easier to share.
But and then if you have an infinite number of, and then you can actually have an infinite number of vacancies, because you can get all the people in the odd numbered rooms to go to even numbered rooms and so on, and then you could get like an infinite number of people into this hotel that's fully booked. But anyway, that's another story.
It wouldn't work if it was quarantined though, because they'd keep getting out.
You've just described how the economy works in the Western world.
You know how the economy works. You pay several $1,000s to mine a bit of a Bitcoin, and then you just wait until Elon Musk buys a couple of $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, and then your $2,000 investment turns into like 40 grand.
And your Tesla investment goes down about 6%.
Yeah, well, it has. Yeah, well, it has, hasn't it? It's a bit sad at the moment. What is it, Pete? That's
It was about 680.
796 at the moment.
Yeah,
796 pre 780 when the market opens.
Yeah, 780 point. Not much. Yeah. Oh well, it's okay. You know, we don't need to buy roadsters yet, or whatever else that you know, sexy cars. S3, X, Y, Cybertruck, ATV, Roadster.
We've got to think of a good name for the 25 grand model. It's got to fit into sexy cars somehow.
Yeah, it'll just be two sexy cars.
Only 2 sexy cars. That is very good, Richard, because I must admit, Pete and I have had this discussion before, and I'm going to invite Pete to suggest what that Model 2 should be. What do you reckon, Pete?
Well, this is not very thought out, but I was thinking the ATV is not. What's that?
What was that?
Samantha.
Sure, why not?
Samantha?
Wasn't she one of those front girls on the newspaper in the UK?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Fox.
Yes, Samantha Fox.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, but the car that Peter has got in the upper, well, for me it's upper right-hand corner. I'm not sure for you guys. That very well 6-year-old drawing of him that he drew 50 years ago, doesn't look at all like Samantha Fox, just quietly. So.
Have you seen her lately?
No, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing.
Neither have I.
Oh dear! But I just wonder what if we have a talk around the clock. It could get pretty ordinary at 3:30 in the morning. I'll give you a job.
I reckon you'd only get the record button going for about 7 hours, and then you just have to turn it off.
So is Elon going to design the caravan to go with the Cybertruck? I'd like to see that.
Now, Carmen, that is a perfect, because it so happens that
someone's done it.
Quite a while ago, I had this spooled up ready for a segue, but then it sort of went. So this is the perfect excuse to show all the images of the Cybertruck on Tesla's website. And lo and behold, one of them is that.
There it is. Yep.
And there's the caravan, which looks like a horse float. Actually, it looks like you could carry horses in it, because it's huge.
And I reckon you get about 500 watts per kilometre on that one.
Yeah, probably.
That's a parachute.
So just quickly going back to some of the awesome images. That's the back part where you can see all the storage. And it's got clever features so that this tailgate engages up here, but you've also got tail lights, which is good for safety. But in here, you've actually got, that's with it totally closed. And there's images of Elon Musk actually standing on this louvered
on Jay Leno's show.
On the Jay Leno, yep, dead right, Pete. There's your caravan, which is huge.
I think it needs more glass. It doesn't look quite right.
Yeah,
maybe where that black strip is.
Okay.
Yeah,
they're afraid to put the glass in because people go around with big steel balls trying to break it.
To be honest, maybe this is like an example of like a moving type caravan or something where you put furniture and stuff. Like it's.
And what they do, the bottom third is batteries, so you can get you actually go places in it.
Well,
you plug that into the Cybertruck.
Those things actually exist as prototypes, apparently, with other companies where they have in-hub motors. So your caravan actually presents zero load to your car because it overcomes its air friction by driving along.
Which is very logical, really.
Absolutely. That's with the ramp down, and you can see the suspension at the front is much higher than the back. So it reduces the angle of the tailgate.
So is that a real photo? It's not a Hummer CGI photo. Is that real?
I think it's pretty legit because you can see the tire tracks.
Well, you can with a Hummer too, but
I think this one's actually legit.
My prediction is that you'll be able to change all of that from the app. Like you'll be able to get it to rock forwards, backwards, side to side.
That'd be awesome. And this is like a camper version. So you actually sleep. You can see here you've got the two flat sleeping bags, and then you got your kitchen stuff underneath. So this is like a false floor, a platform for your sleeping bags.
So you could go camping.
Oh yes. Well, actually, you can go camping in your own car yourself. Actually, in fact, in my back of my car now, I bought let's take this off for a sec. I've bought one of these. It's a tent that's designed. You put your boot up, and it goes over the. It was an Amazon. I'll see if I can try and bring it up.
I actually want to get one of those for the Model S. But is the one that you've got? Would it fit the?
Yes, it fits, I think it fits any car. In fact, it actually showed it being on an ICE car. But obviously, with our cars, we can have the aircon on and pump cool air into the tent.
You could have camp mode on.
Exactly, precisely. Yes. I'm not sure how probably on orders, because I'm pretty sure I got it on Amazon. And I'm in the wrong Amazon. I've got to go com.au. And
I kind of figure that we're not going to be getting Cybertrucks until 2024. So we want to do some camping before then.
This thing's called a Backroads. Here it is.
How many screens have you got, Harold?
So this is a Backroads.
Oh yeah.
So this is obviously an ICE car, and you sort of have the tailgate up or the boot up, and then the tent goes towards the back of it.
So what's the point? You've got a tent.
Well, the point is that you've got access to the back of the car. Let's have a look there. So you can put the aircon on, because on a Tesla you can have the aircon running. So this is good for summer when it's hot. And you can have the aircon running, and it's all relatively sealed up, and there's no exhaust pipe, obviously, and you have to run your engine. So the car in camp mode, you can just.
The only thing I'm worried about is if it gets a breeze on and it starts scratching away at the paintwork.
Oh yeah, but once you've had your car for a few years, Richard, you go.
You want to see the scratches on ours, but yeah.
Built for your Cybertruck, mate. Don't worry about your paintwork.
Yeah.
So there you go. So that's a possibility.
I like the Cybertruck. I used to do a lot of renovations, so that'd be the best ute. A stylish ute.
and being in the real estate game, I mean, everyone's just going to go, I'm going to buy any house you want to sell because you've got an awesome car. Like,
well, I used to do interior design for hotels.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
even
So,
better.
so I can, I quite like renovations. Mm.
Well, there's a lot of, as you can see, this tray can hold 1.5 tons.
Yeah,
So
it looks good.
it's, and the fact that you can actually put the ramp down, so you can actually have a, well, not a wheelbarrow, but you can have like a trolley or something to put plants or heavy
That's
items.
brilliant.
And the way it
clever.
squats down, it's just a fantastic design.
Excellent for landscaping.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, if you've got shrubs or things in pots, it closes up.
Wow.
And yet it's as you can see, it's this top part. So up here, it's higher than down there. So you can put the tall plants up in the front and the shorter ones towards the back.
Yeah. No, it looks.
Or you can have the tall ones at the front, the short ones nearly back, and the really tall ones, and you just shut it 4/5, and they're just locked in with the roof. And that's 6 feet out the top. No, seriously.
Yes. Oh no. Yes. Sorry. Yes. Right. Yeah. So if you go partially, so you leave this part open, and you have the really tall ones. Yes. Yes. Yeah. No, you're dead right there, Richard. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's such an awesome. Yeah. It's just amazing
idea.
to see.
It's fantastic.
It's so first principles, isn't it?
It's a classic. And look at that. It's even got 6 seats. It's got a bench seat, which you fold that down with most of the time. And it doesn't matter, like, you know, it's
if this is really to succeed, I hope they don't make the dash out of West Australian.
Yes, because apparently this is actually a compressed wood fiber composite, because it was because it's renewable product. So it's like a paper pulp.
So where are the airbags in that dash?
It's paper mache. That's what it is.
Yes, paper mache. Yes.
So it might be old West Australian.
There will be an airbag in here on the steering wheel, on the yoke, which will be more like the current one that you see for the S and X. And here there'll be an airbag coming out of that slot, or above here, and it flings around.
Where's the ventilation coming from? Because there's no slot.
No, the slot's there.
It's a long way forward.
So
you reckon we'll really get the yoke on the X in this country?
I don't think Australia has a regulation against sorry, I don't think it has a rule that says a steering wheel has to be round. I don't think we have that technicality. So if we go to the model, oops.
Want to come listen to the original Don McLean, Don Francisco?
Here we go.
It's got wheel in the name, but it doesn't mean it has to be around.
So, actually, we might as well get to the Australian version, because I've got that as well.
Hey Harold, have you noticed there's 2 different interiors with the S's and X's? There's some that have the wood grain,
yes,
for the center console, and others that have the carbon fiber. Yeah.
I thought that was a Plaid Plus or Plaid got the carbon fiber.
For some reason, I know why. Sorry, I just got to grab the right.
Because unlike with the old ones where you had 3 choices of the interior, you only have the carbon fiber as a choice, but then there's some photos with the wood grain. So
don't all the Chinese have wood grain? And on the sides as well of the doors, the front doors?
The white interior, you've got carbon fiber, and if you're black interior, you have wood grain or something like that. Or cream. Cream was an option as well, and you get wood, I think. This is the Australian version. There you go. So that's a bit easier to deal with. Yeah, I did cheat. This one I sort of cheated, but it's harder to tell. And that one I cheated, obviously, because that's backwards, and I couldn't be bothered getting the right look. But that's the yoke there, and they are producing them in America now. So, and I don't think Australia has a rule against it, but perhaps Tesla will offer the round one as a accessory if you really, really hate it. But look, as a thought experiment, and I've almost done it, but I've got to price the cost of a replacement steering wheel. If you just got a hacksaw and just cut off the part of your steering wheel from here to there, because all that top part is useless, except in some Model 3s, I think they've got the heated steering wheel, but maybe they're not in Australia yet. So you could probably fairly safely just hacksaw off the top part of your steering wheel and just see what it looks like.
There's guys in America that have done it.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, yeah.
For
I've seen, there's a guy. He's a some sort of a tradie.
Of course they have.
He always does all his videos in his Model 3 on YouTube, and he did. He changed the screen, the center screen, so he tilted it towards him, and he got rid of the top part of the steering wheel, made it into a yoke.
That's no yoke. You're not yoking.
Yeah, not yoking.
Oh dear.
It's an excellent yoke.
Yes, he's just such a yoker. So the Cybertruck would look probably like that, basically, which is still really good. It's still good. It's
just don't know about that airbag version, that where the airbag block where the horn is. Yeah, that bit there.
Something I just noticed is I think that could be a vertical split. I don't know. See how there's like a slight, there's a slight different coloration or something. So it probably just does like most airbags and just splits out. Because airbags are quite compact these days.
Speaking of airbags, it was interesting to listen to that Joe Rogan podcast where Elon was saying that they update the airbags with the over-the-air updates because they can adapt. So the car knows how heavy you are from the sensor, and it even knows where you're sitting on the seat, whether you're shifting towards one side or another, and the airbag is dynamically adjusting for that.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
extraordinary.
So apparently,
I never knew that.
I think the airbags. I think there are at least one or two. I think there are at least two different types of propellant in the airbag, and they can sequence when they are ignited to alter the characteristics. Because, like you're saying, Pete, Elon went on to elaborate to say that the role of the airbag is to inflate at a certain speed, but it's also it's mostly full of holes, which then almost instantly deflate. Because the idea is, as the car is hitting into a heavy object like a brick wall or a tree or another car,
or
it's
a
only got
Cybertruck,
milliseconds to decide that this is an impact, and then before your body has even had the chance to start moving forward, because the rest of the car is basically stopping much quicker than you are, the airbag inflates, comes in, and you pound into it, but then it's got to deflate. Otherwise, it's like hitting a
wall,
like a
brick
wall. Yeah, that's right. Or like a tire or something that's not deflating. But I think these days the modern airbags actually have at least two different types of propellant, so they can sequence it to get whatever they want. But I wonder, Pete, whether Elon was describing, I don't know whether it's the Model 3s or if it's the new S's or X's, or because I thought in the older cars they were more simple. The actual seat occupancy thing was quite dumb. Like it had a threshold where you get the seatbelt warning doodad. If you had shopping or like a heavy bag in your passenger seat, it may or may not trigger.
I get it quite often when I'm taking people for rides, and there's a couple of people sitting in the back seat, and invariably one of them will lean over and put their elbow on the middle seat because they're trying to look at the screen, and yeah, it goes off. Yeah.
It was very interesting. And I know Tesla, when they were dealing with the NHTSA, the safety thing in America, and they were discussing what would be coming next in regulation for autonomous vehicles. They were talking about, well, what is defined as a steering wheel or a steering apparatus, because it may not be in the driver's position. It might be in the passenger's position, or it might be in the rear seat if you want to take over briefly or whatever. And then they're talking about regulations where you got a driver's airbag, you got a passenger airbag, and what does that actually mean when there may not be a steering wheel, or there may be multiple places where you can control the car.
A good real world example of that is the RAC Intellibus that goes up and down South Perth. So when they have to take over, it's really just an Xbox controller. So if they have to go around another car or what have you, and that Xbox controller can be passed around to anyone. So it can be any of the 6 seating positions, the 2 benches. It can be the driver. So
yeah, so clearly Tesla wants clarification, because you don't want some law that says that you've got to have a driver's airbag at every possible driver's position, or if your steering wheel is like a Xbox toy one, because it doesn't have to be physically connected to the car with a shaft. It could just be something you hold in your hand.
Could be wireless.
Obviously, it could be wireless. Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't need an airbag, obviously, because that's yes, that was that Channel 9 or 7? Was that Channel 9 news? Can't hear you, Rob, because you're
ABC 24. They're talking about Bitcoin.
Oh yes, it was. Sorry, yes, that's right. Because the Tesla reference was Tesla accepting it. Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Go Bitcoin.
Is it still worth mining?
If you ask me.
It breached 50 grand earlier today.
Yes, it did. Yes.
50 grand US,
Is it still worth mining it?
I don't know. I haven't mined.
Even worth even more now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Peter mentioned the RAC Intellibus. So here's a bit of trivia for you. The same guy that drives Western Australia's fastest electric vehicle also drives Western Australia's slowest electric vehicle.
Jürgen.
Yes.
Does he? Oh, yes. That's the UWA one.
Yeah, Jürgen drives the RAC one.
Oh, the RAC one.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And he also drives the Green Machine electric car. So there you go.
That's cool. Yeah, Pete, I don't know whether you've mined. It's just because I work away for 2 weeks at a time, and I've got a pretty powerful VR machine. I'm like, well, I wonder if I could put that to some use while I'm away for a couple of weeks. Mining.
Well, you might as well use that solar power.
Well, exactly. That's what it's coming off. So.
Yeah. It's look, I mean, the investments are pretty big. So no, I've never done it. Never really looked into it. But you'd need a ASIC. You need a. I mean, you can try mining other cryptos like Bitcoin Gold, which is more suited to sort of, people like us mining it. But you'd probably want to join something like a mining pool or what have you to have a little bit more. But yes, about 70% of Bitcoin mining is done in China, and there's huge and massive warehouses, and they're fairly professional operations. So you're effectively competing. For every hash, you're always competing against all them. So I mean, the price is very lucrative now, but so is the competition. yeah, right up there as well. But interestingly, Bitcoin might actually change the whole way energy works, in that historically what we've always done is human civilizations have always congregated around places of cheap energy. So, whether that was initially rivers or what have you, but we can change that all upside down. So, let's say there's some remote, massive waterfall in, some third world African country somewhere. Well, it'd be worthwhile installing a Bitcoin,
Victoria Falls, maybe.
Yeah, and then while you're building the Bitcoin mining rig that runs on the waterfall, you then build the schools and the roads and the infrastructure around it. So actually bring people. It was I think it was Michael Sawyer was doing an interview with someone that was mentioning this as a concept. So he's the guy, he's the CEO of MicroStrategy, and they're famous for knowing that, how Tesla put $1.5 billion into Bitcoin. They've got 100% of all their funds in Bitcoin. But yeah, I just thought that was a real. Actually, I'll see. I think I even saved or wrote down. Keep on talking. I'll see if I can find the little excerpt. It was really interesting.
Harold, we were just. I was just asking the question: is it worth mining? Because I've got, a computer that's fairly powerful. But I mean, if it's
well, I can show you. I can show you a video. You won't be able to see it that well, but you should be able to hear it. I'll just turn the volume up. And this is nothing like what it actually is like.
That's your Bitcoin miner going crazy.
You need some fairly serious fans, and you wouldn't want that anywhere near a sleeping baby.
Certainly not.
So
it's in the basement.
That sound is nothing like it's actually got an inline fan. There's an input fan and an output fan, so it runs right through the whole thing. So it's inline. So you can't have it in a house. It's just. I had it like in a storeroom in the garage, and I must admit, my wife complained like crazy. And it was really power hungry because it used 1,500 watts 24/7. So it cost several $1,000s in electricity. And out of all of that, I got half a Bitcoin. Well, 0.55 of a Bitcoin.
Yeah, right.
Which, is like 40 grand now, which is okay now. But, when Bitcoin was, $5,000, and I had a whole, 2 grand, I wasn't really making any money. And big shout out to all those auditors in the ATO. I haven't yet sold my Bitcoin, so I haven't technically actually made a capital gain yet. But and one day I might buy a Roadster with it, and then I'll have to pay the tax.
Hey Harold, how much? So if you spend less than $10,000, because you want to spend more than 10,000 on electricity and everything. Yeah, so there is an exemption to capital gains tax. So this is not tax advice or anything. But if your investment was less than $10,000, you are not deemed to have been investing. You are, you've just bought a currency to spend later on. So you might actually be tax exempt with that one. But not tax advice. Do your own research. But yeah.
Yes. So the information in this video is of a general nature, and anyone. This is not personal advice.
But speaking of mining rigs, I remember this is going back a year or two, reading about I think it was like a room heater and a cooler as well that had a mining rig built into it. You know what I'm talking about, Harold?
Yes, and it's not just mining rigs. organizations like Google, NextDC, there's a lot of data centers that have distributed processing and even storage. And I saw an article in France that they had a room heater that was basically a computer in a box. It was all sealed up. And its waste product was heat. And in winter, of course, you want to have heat. But the heat, you're not just getting the raw heat, you're also getting computation and search engine computations.
Wasn't it, what's the guy who writes Electric?
Fred Lambert.
Fred Lambert, because he was talking about that on his latest podcast. He said that he doesn't use heaters in his house. He has just Bitcoin miners.
Yes, the problem is they're very loud. Yeah, look, the one I've got, mine was, it's a couple of years, or no, how old is it? It's that was 2.5 years old, if not a bit older, maybe 3 years old, and it was only capable of doing 13.5 tera hashes per second. So it's 13.5 trillion calculations a second. But now I think they're even more efficient because, like Pete was alluding to before, in China, and in fact, in China, a lot of Bitcoin miners were shut down because they were basically using subsidized power, subsidized electricity to create Bitcoins, which is not the role of, or the purpose of the government subsidizing electricity. It was supposed to be for, gross national product or whatever, machinery and stuff. But the big issue isn't the rate at which you can get Bitcoins, it's the energy efficiency of the calculations, because it all gets down to the raw energy. If I could create a machine that could make Bitcoins for 1/10 of the energy cost, then I could just flood the market and I'd have so many miners because, it'd be free energy basically, or well, very little energy used. So I did see a documentary about Bitcoin that was about 5 years old, and they were talking about it. Some of the Bitcoin miners, they're a bit like drug addicts. They sort of they start on the soft stuff, and then what they do is they get all the profit from mining Bitcoins, and then they find out they've got to buy a faster miner because everyone else has got a faster one. So then they spend, $3,000 or $2,000 on a better mining rig and electricity. And then they find out another year later that they've got to buy another faster one and another one. And they usually buy the latest miner with the profits from the previous one. So you're always reinvesting your profits into more and more machinery. And in the end, you don't really get that much benefit because you've never cashed out. You've always reinvested. It's almost like a never-ending arms race sort of thing. But
I think you might need your Bitcoin as for a margin call on Tesla shares. So
I can definitely state that I've got no margin. I've got no margin lending on Tesla. Not yet.
It's 765 at the moment.
Oh yeah,
they've opened down a bit. Right.
Yeah. Look, that's perhaps that's a little bit of the Berkshire Hathaway excuse. Maybe some people were speculating that might have been it. Like they might have bought up hoping, and now they're just doing a stop loss. But I don't know if the rest of the NASDAQ, the All Ords was down 0.42% today. I mean, Tesla's down nearly 4%. But Tesla does that. It magnifies gains and losses. So I don't know if the rest of the market.
Just last sort of half an hour. How much do you, just a question, is the S&P companies, the ETFs and so on that had to balance their portfolios and so on, are they still picking up stuff now to sort of or would they all have done it fairly soon after it was?
You got to draw a distinction between the
tracking,
the index funds, and the managed funds that are benchmarked to the S&P 500. So the index funds, to minimise tracking error, they all piled in at the close on the day they was included. So so they would have within minutes or within an hour or so, they would have all been in to the full extent. But there's a lot more managed funds that are benchmarked against the S&P 500 than the actual index funds. And most of those, so they saw the stock run up because of the index fund. So they said, okay, we'll just sit back and we'll wait till the stock comes back and we'll get it at a lower price. And then we'll be outperforming the index, at least on that trade. But the problem is the price did come down, but not for very long. And then it started going up like crazy again. So a lot of those fund managers are effectively short Tesla because they need to have it in their portfolio because they're benchmarking against the S&P 500. So they've got two choices. You either don't buy Tesla and keep on underperforming your benchmark, or you buy it late now at a higher price and you've definitely underperformed the benchmark, at least as far as Tesla is concerned. But at least you've put a stop to it. At least you're not going to underperform anymore. So yeah, but there's still a lot of funds out there that haven't got their proper allocation.
So what was their price? Was it 8.20? Was that when they entered? Was that the closing price from memory, or am I got that wrong? Was it less?
Yeah, it was the closing price on that day where it shot up, in the last during the cross.
I think that was 8. You had an 8 in front. I thought it was 8. Was it 8.20, or am I imagining that?
I can't remember now.
Yeah. I could be imagining it. But I guess the point is, if the price dips lower, it's an ideal opportunity for those benchmark funds to open their positions and balance themselves. And in fact, if they did that, if they could purchase in at less than Tesla's opening price when they enter the S&P, then those funds by definition would probably be outperforming the S&P. Presuming Tesla goes back to the same value, like back to that same opening value. They would be outperforming because the other funds have already bought it at 8.20 or whatever it was.
So it was December 21st was the day. So let me see if I can have a quick look, see if I can find what the price would have been. Here we go.
So what date was that, Pete? 23rd of November.
21st of this.
21st of December.
No, December.
December.
Correct. Yep.
I've got 21st. 21st was $640.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right, does it?
Yeah, that 2020. Yeah, I've got that on my finger. Oh, let me just I'll just do a screenshot.
No, 695, Harold. So it was the day before. So 21st was the Monday, and they all piled in on the Friday
17th.
After market close on the cross.
Was that the 17th?
No, the 18th.
No, it can't be 18th. I show 17th and it says 695.
Yeah, that's what I've got on the 18th, 695 close.
Yeah, right.
So that was the price, 695. So even now with this drop, if they were to buy back in, they're still paying $100 more than the index funds got it for.
So sucked in, they're sort of like still trapped.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of incentive for the price to get to 700, obviously, or 695.
You're dead right. Here we go. Yeah, so that's for everyone watching at home. Whoops. Focus. That's not working at all, is it?
Too close.
Too close.
Yep. Pull back a bit. Just won't focus on it.
Anyway, yeah, you're right, Pete. 695. That was that extraordinary close.
Yeah.
So the funds now are any reference fund is still behind the 8 ball. Yeah.
Yep. Still $100.
Yeah. Well, they had the chance.
Yep. Oh, look, and some bought up, beforehand in expectation of inclusion, and so, and some of the portfolio managers, some of the big funds, they have multiple funds. So some might have been the speculative funds that they bought up, 2 or 3 months ahead of time, and they sold to the index fund on the day, and they might still be holding some, which they can then sell to the, to the benchmark fund, so they can sell amongst the different funds to do what they need to do to meet their.
And they've all got different. I mean, it can be the same broad company with different funds trading amongst themselves to make each section look just as good. So
because
if front running, they can make a profit and show a profit, but they can adjust it to how they think. There's no point making a ludicrously high profit because
it's just seen as too risk. Your fund's taking too much risk.
Yes.
So what they do is they sell it to the other fund, and the other fund that looked like it was going to miss out, and it all evens out, and it all looks, it's all window dressed to make it all look nice and pretty. But
exactly.
All sorts of shenanigans going on underneath. It's like the proverbial duck with its feet underneath the surface. Yeah.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. Cool. Well, hey, it's my watch has gone to sleep because it's obviously telling me to go to bed. It's 20 to 11, so it's probably a good time to wind it up there on a bit of a down day for Tesla, but it's been a great week anyway. So who cares? It's all good next week. Thanks everyone for joining us. Carmen, Peter, Pete, Richard, Joe, Seb, Damon, and all the other 22 people that watch us, Joseph.
And Elon.
And Elon, of course, Elon. Thanks for that.
Lawrence,
love your work, Less tweet, more Cybertruck, whatever. It's all good. So yeah, thanks for joining us. Remember to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And everyone have a lovely week. Look after yourselves, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, Harold. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks,
have a great one.
Bye.
Cheers. See ya.